Also in a postgraduation sort of program, you are given that task of leadership. You go on teaching your juniors. Some skills you teach them, some processes to teach them, you lead them, you tell them what is to be done. Then frantically you'll come, in emergency, what is to be done, you tell them. This is sort of an inherent way of developing leadership. Which all of us we have it. Like a Hanuman, he did not know that he could jump. Let us know to him that you are a born leader. You are a. Am I not audible?
The Zoom platform is going on. Simultaneously, Zoom follow.
He did not know. Till then, it was revealed unto him that he has those capabilities in him and he can do it. So, what is required essentially is a motivation, initiation. If you want to define leadership, there is not a single definition of leadership. It cannot be sort of defined in a few words. Yes, there are many people who have attempted, many people have done it. But at the same time, you cannot precisely have a definition that yes, this is leader. Because it is multifaceted, multi-situational, and the various things are involved there. So leadership cannot, if one thing is very definite, there is not a permanent affair. It keeps on changing. And that should. Sometimes situational. You have to have it. Sometimes operational leadership. There's so many things there. But one thing is very definite, that we can know when it is there in front of you. You may not be able to perfectly describe it in words. What is leader? Leader is a person who is clear about the vision and wants to align his sort of forces or people around him, a group of people of different sort of cadres, to ensure that vision is completed or task is completed as is had. That is the leader. And that we have been doing it time and again and again. How definitely we can do, and in doing so, are we making our juniors as leaders? That is very important. Leaderships can be many. Some are born leaders. As I was talking in my room, born leaders, especially, I think that thought came from scriptures or maybe from spirituality, where we thought that he's a leader born, God has given him the divinity, and then nobody else can sort of emulate him, nobody can become like that. Maybe in spirituality, but in practical life, it is not like that. They are not born. Maybe a situation in your house, situation in your surroundings, situation in your school, college, that they try to push you as a leader, or you inculcate the qualities of leadership, which you exhibit when time comes. You need not be born leader. If that's so, then probably we will have very few leaders in all things. Then, so these are the sort of various things I would like to say. In our ophthalmology, apart from the technical skills we are supposed to have it and give the best results to our patients, we also have additional responsibility which none of the specialty have got it. And that is reduction of blindness in the country, order of blindness in the region. And because of that, also, we need to have vision, we need to have sort of a mission, we need to have sort of a culture, we need to have sort of a leadership to ensure that in your area, you would like to reduce that blindness. And in every walk of life, maybe you are a father, maybe you are sort of a good mother, you maybe you are a good doctor, maybe you have got your own clinic, maybe you are an institution part. You have to be a leader and develop leadership. Unless you develop leadership among your colleagues, you're not a leader. At the end, I would all that say that we are in the land of Tukaram Maharaj. And what is a leader? Apuna sarikhe kariti tatkar. One person who makes others like him, they are leaders. With this, I will conclude. Thank you. There are many people you feel that they are not being recognized. They are leaders. So एक रन जाता है आदमी के मन में, and there is one poet Rahim. He has said that थोड़ों के बड़े ने की बड़ी बढ़ाई हो. If a big leader is there, suppose that we have cinema adults, leaders. Previously they say Indira Gandhi has worn this sort of a sari and some silk and all. But I would say, otherwise people wearing that, nobody would look at them. Similarly here, then थोरों के बड़े ने की बड़ी बनाई हो, जो हनुमंत को गिरधर कहते को. Hanuman had lifted a big sort of a mountain, but nobody calls him Girdhar. He had put a small mountain, but they call him Girdhar. So need not be there. People may not call you leader, but you are a leader. Thank you very much.
थँक्यू सर. तुमच्या अनुभवाच्या बोलण्यातून आम्हाला कायम नवीन नवीन गोष्टी शिकायला मिळतात. Now I would like to request Dr. Taswala, President of MOS, to say a few words before we actually start the session.
Very warm welcome to all my dear US and the MOS LDP inductees. First of all, I would like to congratulate and thank Dr. Madan Deshpande sir for offering us this auditorium, because of which I think, and it is what we say history, we are in the making. So it's very nice, sir, that you have offered us. People on the dais and the off the dais, dignitaries who have come, rest of the students who have come far away from Maharashtra, a warm welcome to you once again. You must be thinking why we have a closed door meeting for this. Well, we want to dedicate ourselves in such a way, as Dr. Natarajan has started this year's program way back almost 20 years ago, where only one person from Maharashtra we could have sent them. And that also, if they agree, they'll accept it. But luckily, they used to agree, and we used to have one per person every year. So I said, in Maharashtra, there are plenty of people who have got a lot of talent and who have got leadership qualities. So why can't we conserve that talent, the leadership potential, and get to the fore? And that was the brainchild, which I got it way back almost in August. I took over in November. So 3 months prior, me and Dr. Natarajan, he was the one who started AIOS LDP program. We thought over the whole process. We did a lot of groundwork, whom to take in as LDP inductees. Initially, we thought earlier in AIOS, we had 40 as the age group. Here I said, around people start settling around 28, 29, 30. पहले 5-7 साल तो practice में establish करने में भागादौड़ी में चले जाते हैं. So we don't have time to learn all this. So the freshers, definitely we had in mind. Postgraduates who are going to listen to these talks are going to be really going to benefit on this. And then of course, the middle-aged ophthalmologists who are individual practitioners. If you see the most periphery of the Maharashtra, very little guidance has been given. There's less of coaching, less of mentorship. So I thought, let's open up for whole of Maharashtra. Initially, I had a thought of having only 5 or 10. Then I said, let's start the process in a big way. Over a period of time, we'll see how the response is, and then we'll go about it. So yesterday, when I spoke to Dr. Natarajan, and today morning again, we have with us international faculty, Dr. Arun Gulani, who is going to join. He started this thing in Bombay, and today he's one of the top plastic surgeons in USA. Of course, he's established in Florida. More about him by our moderators and the MOCs we're going to introduce. So that one thing that he said, okay, Dr. Dasula, you started this very, very good program. It's going to help people in a long way. And I'm sure the next president, Dr. Santosh Bede, is also there. He's going to take it forward next year too. What exactly is our concept of going ahead and doing it? In AIOS, we had a 1.5 to 2 hour session of induction and the conference, the annual conference. And then we had 2 residential programs. And following that, the concluding program was in the next annual conference. So that's how we used to do the AIOS LDP. What different are we doing here? Most important is a full day program, where you get one-to-one to your teachers, everybody who are seniors here, to interact. That's why I wanted all 22 had enrolled for this LDP to come. But somehow because of the travel restrictions and all, they said that on some busy this thing they could not make it. So it's fine. I have opened up this Zoom platform for them also to join. In addition, those who have already come all the way from Maharashtra, I am so grateful to you people. You will, and you are going to benefit. Each one of you at the end of the session will say, "Arey, itna badhiya ho gaya." I think yesterday, day before yesterday, also I got 2 more people who wanted to join. From HV, they said, Dr. Sucheta has given me 2 more names. So this is going to spread like wildfire. What are we going to cover today? The idea is the potential of how to usurp the leadership potential. First, what Dr. Mandar Paranjpe is going to cover is upscaling the surgical skills. So, usme choti cheeze dekho, how a leader takes over and how he works out. He has framed a lot of questions. We had a mock trial yesterday night. It's wonderful. Sucheta madam has already learned this thing in UK. She is going to have a live interactive session with each one of you. Then Tejaswini, who is the chief coordinator of this program, she is going to have interview and pearls of wisdom from 2 of the greats that we have, Colonel Deshpande Sir Guru and the mentor and the coach, and Dr. Udayan Dikshit. So it will be a very enjoyable session, and it will be life enriching experience, which I feel everybody is going to get it today. Following that, we have with us on the national faculty, the who is who of ophthalmology. We have tried to get them here. Of course, they will be online. And the names you already know, Dr. Chitra Ramamurthy, who is the chairman ERC. Then Dr. Partho Vishwas was supposed to join, but because they had an urgent meeting in Bombay, the upcoming AIOC 2022, so he is excused himself. We have Dr. Mohan Rajan, a good colleague of mine who is going to be part of the show. You must have heard about him. He is on the maximum number of OPL leagues and much more about him also. Then Dr. Namrata Sharma. She was nowhere in the picture in the last about 8 to 10 years back, and suddenly you see how she has come into, and everybody knows Namrata Bolo, AIS secretary. So there she has created her own brand. That is what I want. That's another topic that we are coming up, is the brand building and digital marketing. Everybody is good, but they are not exposed to the whole of the world. Why? Because a lot of people lack digital marketing. So if you want to become a leader, you should be known worldwide. The best way, and that's why we have included that topic too. And finally, we are going to have session with the international faculty, Dr. Arun Gulani and Dr. Natarajan sir, who is based now in USA today, and also Dr. Anil Kulkarni. So we have got all the stalwarts for you. The session is going to be really enjoyable. You're going to have a life enriching experience. As I just said, the next session will be informing you. It will be most probably a residential session we are planning in Bombay, and most probably will be Wellingborough. But keep your fingers crossed and see how we develop that. And the final concluding session, because this is only a short period of 6 months instead of 1 year, we'll be having at the annual conference at Nasik. So a big thank you, sir. Also, Dr. Rahul Deshpande, he readily agreed. The first phone I did, Tejaswini had called me, sir, आपल्याला एचवी देसाई जमेल का? म्हटलं उत्तमच आहे. सरांचे जे कर्मभूमी आपण तिकडे लोकांना एलडीपीचं हे करतो आहे. Go ahead. So I spoke to Dr. Deshpande. In fact, I wanted him to be here, but I think he has got some other commitments. Then Sucheta, sir, तुम्ही काही काळजी करू नका. We'll see that everything is done nicely. This is what I say कि leadership qualities we can seek with. आप हमारे पे छोड़ दो, हम सब करेंगे. So when you are trained, we expect that from you. I would like to have a proper feedback on each of the seminars or whatever. We'll be having online webinars also in between, but the physical meet will be 3. So every time you give a feedback of what have you learned, what have you decided. The negative parts you are going to excuse yourself, and the positives you are going to conserve the potential. So over that 6 months to 1 year, 6 months, and carry forwarded by, I can just see Santosh, he is going to definitely carry forward this LDP committee which I have formed. There is another thing which is also coming up, which I would like you to be part of it. We have come up with the mentor-mentee committee, where we are having enrollment of about 52 people who are going to be mentored throughout, and it will be 360 days. It will be online mentorship. This is also a new concept. You also should be part of that. So you learn from the leaders. And I'm going to involve Pan India. everybody, not 1, 2, 3, from Maharashtra only, but pan India. So we are going to have a super panel of mentors, and then we are going to have the mentors, 1-to-1 mentorship, Guru Shishya Parampara, old age Guru Shishya Parampara, we are going to implement in letter and spirit. So each person will be dedicated one mentee. And after 1.5 to 2 months, we are going to have a review on that also. And we can upgrade this thing, whatever the shortcomings are there, we try and cover it. So these are the few things which will be added to your LDP program, which I am planning. By 29th, most probably we are enrolling and starting the MOS mentor mentee also. So I want you people also to be part of that. Over and above, I wish you once again best of luck for being part of this MOS LDP induction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for the motivating words. Before we actually kickstart the sessions, I would invite Dr. Tejaswini Valimbe, who has been the coordinator for today's program, to say a few words. And I would also like Dr. Rakesh Shetty to be on the stage for comparing, and Dr. Nikita.
Good morning, everyone. Respected Colonel Dr. Madan Deshpande sir, Dr. Taswala, all my seniors and friends. Taswala sir already has explained in details everything about LDP, so I am not talking in detail anything. Just when Dr. Taswala sir asked me to be a coordinator of this session, one thing came in my mind, that the session scientific program or the program should be designed as such, and when you will be out of this hall after 6 p.m., in everybody's personal and professional life, there should be some positive change. That was my thinking. So we tried to design the program in that way. And the secondly, the group should be, it should be a platform. LDP leadership development, all candidates and their friends in this group should be a platform to discuss and share the problems in professional life, and it should be a support group for everybody. That was my thinking behind this session. And so now don't think about the past, don't worry about the future, just be in a present moment and enjoy the session. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for spending your Sunday with us.
The first topic for the session is how to improve surgical skills. It will be chaired by Colonel Madan Deshpande sir and co-chaired by Dr. Sashi Prasad. I'd like to call them on the dais to start the session. And will be conducted by Dr. Mandar Paranjpe sir. I would like to call Dr. Mandar Paranjpe sir on the dais.
The panelists for this session are Dr. Pooja Goyal ma'am, Dr. Ketan Jathar sir, Dr. Sachin Kabra sir, and Dr. Rajesh Joshi sir. You would like to call them on the dais.
We have a mic system which is such that you don't need cordless mic. Whoever can speak can be heard very clear. Preferably, all the participants should sit in the first 3 rows so that they are audible.
People are well covered in the academic because room by all over India. Place yourself in the center seat in the next 3 rows.
Then come and occupy these rooms.
Please come forward. Don't feel shy.
So very good morning, respected chairman, co-chairman, and my dear panelist. How's the Josh? Great. Very happy Mother's Day to you all and to the wonderful mothers sitting in the audience. And we wish that our motherland also becomes a land of prosperity. Surgery, that's what we do. That's what our identity is. Learning any surgical skill is a challenge, but becoming an expert surgeon is a much difficult challenge. And it's a long process, often ridden with big hurdles. Also, being a skillful surgeon is not enough. One must also learn consciously to be a good team leader and a manager akin to a captain on a plane, responsible for the limb and life of others, in our case, our patients. So we're going to have a 45-minute panel discussion in which we'll try to understand this process from 4 expert young surgeons. I'll introduce the surgeons. The first is Dr. Rajesh Joshi. He is a professor and HOD at Government Medical College, Nagpur. He also serves as the secretary of Maharashtra Ophthalmological Society, and he's a fitness enthusiast. So welcome, Dr. Rajesh, to this panel. And he also happens to be a panelist, a faculty, and a candidate for this LDP. Second is Dr. Sachin Kabra. He is an accomplished vitreoretinal surgeon trained at the Shankar Nethralaya Hospital, Eye Hospital in Chennai. And he is a beautiful writer. I really love your writing. Welcome, Sachin, to this panel. Third is Dr. Pooja Goyal. She is also an accomplished oculoplastic surgeon, again trained at the SN Hospital, Chennai, and she is a wonderful painter. Welcome, Dr. Pooja, to this panel. And the fourth, and perhaps probably the youngest, is Dr. Ketan Jathar, again an accomplished VR surgeon who is also trained at SN and an expert tennis coach. So welcome, Dr. Ketan, to this panel. And I am Dr. Mandar Paranspe. I am a comprehensive ophthalmologist, sometimes poet and a podcaster. So let's begin. So the structure is such that any one of you can answer these questions. They are directed to you all, and just be brief so that we can stick to the time. So when we start learning surgery, it's a different experience altogether. So I would like to know from you all if you can share some of those experiences in your postgraduate days as well as your fellowship. Dr. Pooja, you can start.
So, coming from postgraduate days, I did my postgraduation at this movie place, HVSI, and I was very keen on taking a oculoplastic. And all I remember is getting after fellows and senior PGs, trying to learn the steps. And we used to literally watch videos online and try to learn from there and then practice the next day and try to get our techniques straight. So those are my earliest memories of learning from my senior fellows and senior residents. And going ahead, I took up oculoplasty. I went to Shankar Nethralaya. It was a shock of my life to see so many types of surgeries being performed, so many different types of patients coming all around the world, and learning from the best of teachers. And it was an experience where the teachers were learning from us. I never experienced that in my life ever. So that is from where I took up that yes, you can also contribute to people, to your seniors, and they always contribute to your life. So that has been my learning in my PG days and fellowship days.
Good morning, all. So in my early post-graduation days, I was in an institute where we had fair amount of surgical work. And luckily, I was blessed to have Dr. Ketan Jathar as my guru, who used to take personal, used to teach us personally, he used to supervise all our surgeries. And the next part, when I became senior, I think the best part of learning surgery was to teach. when we were as a CR, under supervision, we used to teach the juniors, and I think that was the best part of learning, where teaching is the best thing, that's what I believe. And later on, when I went to Shinkar Netralaya, as she said, it was a world-changing experience. It was a different ballgame altogether. It was so huge, but there we could learn meticulously the protocols for surgery, and it was not just learning. We were even just going to the files which we had. We used to see how to manage a patient pre-operatively, not only from the VR point of view, but other subspecialties as well. And then we had this concept of mentor and mentee. We used to be under supervision for 2-3 months under the surgeon, and they used to teach us even on the other step. They used to supervise from the side, scope and teach us, and I think that was the best part. Luckily, when we learned, there was not much of YouTube videos and all, so it was observant. You had to be observant to see different surgeons with different ways, and that helped us still. So a particular step can be managed in either way. The surgeon, one particular surgeon does in that way, and another one does in another way. So we had the chance to pick up the best from that, and then as we further operated, it enhanced our skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Taswala sir, MOS sir, for this opportunity. Well, two SM pros are sitting next to me. I was a privilege as I was a student as a PG also at Shinkar. I'm just sharing few of my experiences on that. The way we got training, people talk about the surgical chair, but I got much more than that. I'll come to that. What I observed at Shinkar was that training was very structured, very well system was in place. So when the PG used to come, he has to go through all the books first, get the theory right. Then he used to get exposure to other teachers, the read of books. Then you come to the OR, then you have been taught to have a blocks first, to get the touch to the eye first. Then once you get that, then you used to develop wet lab training. Then you used to do hand-eye coordination with the microscope. I remember taking 10 resolutions from the thermocol under the microscope, and I have to show to my teacher. Remember, at every stage there was a lot of maintain. My teacher could completely kind of the output is not complete, I not doing things. So very structured program was there. Then I go to the operation theater, I will give few steps first, and supervising it. End of the every day, a lot of discussion was there. A lot of first given up issue. It doesn't matter if you coordinating on the first day or supplementing the register for not to tolerate too much. So you get like my teacher said, first time I jam with you. That's what my teacher said. When you handle a content, I won't kill the content. Even that has a life. That's a statement makes a big impact on the student. So you get the tradition and a lot of interaction was there. Even fellowship was for interaction. So advantage of structured training was that everyone has to go through a process. There is a complex check at every step. Every teacher talks to you, every talk to the teacher, and you know. But I'm going slightly up one step beyond that. This is a more or less pattern form everywhere in India. The structure pattern is there for training. But what changed me at this time was that they made me a better person. We talk about the surgical steps, we talk about the surgical training, we talk about the fake holes and plaques and acid. But what about the value system? At SM as a PG for first 2 months, they instill the value system. They instill the value system of integrity, honesty, participation, respect your colleagues, be honest to everything what you're doing. And it was not just preaching. Everybody around us was doing it. Everybody, the student, teacher, everybody was in that field. And when you stand enough in a rose garden, after certain time starts moving the rose, because the fragrance starts on. In a similar way, when you company with good people around you, you also become a good person. What had helped the value system in my life has given me a lot of peace and happiness in me. Those critical skills, our results will give you a better state and you get big awards, presentations, you get home, you get cars, you get many things. But at the end of the day, there are so many people who are professionally successful, but they are peaceful. So, within the surgical skill, they give me a surgical business, but instilling a value system and practicing them gives me peace and happiness in my life. So I become happy as well as successful simultaneously. Be happily successful. This is what excellence taught me in my business. So yes, you learn your training program too. That's why absolutely very wrong. There always a structure system is there. You don't compromise on the value system. You have to stay peaceful in the world. I think that is what excellence taught me.
Whatever Sachi has told, it was all structured learning. But when I entered into residency, it was way back 1990. there was no structured teaching or learning at our college. It was a huge medical college. And in fact, I don't remember how I learned, but I learned. I was pushed into learning. We did not have a wet lab or instrumentals at that time. So what used to happen? We used to make patients ready for the surgeons. We used to assist them. So initial thing was how to make a trolley, or how to prepare trolley for the surgeon. We used to get a lot of scolding for making trolley. Because they say that if you are reading the instruments properly, then you can learn many things. Assisting the junior resident, I think, is the most important part of learning. When I become registrar, because initially there was house officer and registrarship. It wasn't like GR1, GR2, GR. My learning happened during this when I became registrar. Because I think most of the learning occurs when you are assisting your juniors. Whatever mistakes they make, those are important. That is how you can rectify the surgical steps. At that time, we had a train on wheel that used to be there for 1 month around Varora, I suppose. So we used to go to the train on wheel for assisting many surgeons, the private practitioners, then all the practitioners from Nagpur city or surrounding Nagpur city used to come there. We used to prepare patients. We used to give blocks. How to give blocks? In fact, I learned from there because we had to give around 100 to 200 blocks daily. And then at the last, at the end of the day, we used to get one case. And that time, the learning used to occur. All private practitioners, they used to be around us, and used to teach us how to make congenital flap. It was ICC days, how to prepare congenital flaps, coordinator, and all. So, that is how my learning occurred. And then afterwards, it was like a small steps learning. The surgical steps, they require surgery. Even if you have a small congenital incision, that makes a small step for the surgery. So those we used to do step by step. And at the end of the residency, we used to get around 10 to 12 cases. That is how my learning occurred.
Great. So there are a lot of positive points that have come out of your sharing of early experiences. Now, when you're a surgeon, it is not just you performing one surgery, but you're a team leader. You are leading a team of specialists, non-specialists, and it is not so easy to do this. We sort of learn on the job, literally. Nobody tells us how to manage our OR or how to manage so many other aspects of the operation theatre. So, sir, you being a leader is something which comes instinctively to us, and I think this is the core of this very discussion. So I want to start with you, Dr. Rajesh. What does it mean to you to be a surgeon and a leader in your workplace?
Yeah, leadership, in fact, everyone wants to be leader. But he's responsible for whatever happens, whatever walk of life happens. He has to balance between the learning and the vision. Because if you give a case to the resident, okay, it takes a lot of time and you expect some problem also. So you have to balance between the vision and the patient. You don't want any visual loss when anyone is operating. I usually tell them that you operate as if you are operating your team or near and dear. That is the most important part of the team. Small steps. Maybe initially, we used to begin with 2 tables. What I do as a leader in our team. So initially, I start my case, and second case is given to the residents. Okay. So that is not allotted, in fact, that I will be doing, but small steps. Maybe initial incisions like side 4 or clear body incision, pushing, whatever steps, small steps. That makes a big surgery or a whole surgery. So they learn slowly. We start in GR1 after they complete 3 to 4 months of GR1, and that is being monitored by me. If they make mistakes, then that is my mistake. So leader has to supervise everything, whatever happens. He is responsible for everything. So that is how, as a leader, that is a role of leader in the surgical process. Post-operatively also, something goes wrong, you are responsible. It's not that this case was allotted to you or this you have done. It's not like that. Even if lecturer is operating or assistant professor is operating, as a leader, you are responsible for whatever happens. And you have to take that responsibility because you are responsible for talking to the patient what has happened. And you have to explain thoroughly or truthfully what has happened. That is the most important part of leadership, I suppose.
Committing concept was just doing my viewpoint. I feel leadership is not a destination, it's a journey. Often the journey is more beautiful than the destination. As a journey, I think all of us are born leaders. Even though you are only beings to one against us millions or to become a human being. So you're born as a sometimes you don't realize the potential. And as a human growth happens, that the challenges will come. So I'm using the word challenge specifically because I'm not using the word problems. For me to see a problem, you get now. You see a challenge. I see opportunity of growth. Many challenges to be thrown to me as I'm a private practice or small setup. And being a leader, that every day I get numerous challenges. All of us do that. The higher you go in life, the more the frequency and intensity of challenges both will go up. But that is a sign of your growing. There's not that you are not bottom. The question comes how to deal with those challenges. First thing I do that I accept it, whatever the situation is there, it is just a challenge, it is not a problem. And I view it as my growth opportunity. Mindset helps me to solve many of my issues. Third thing, I believe that I'm not here to complain, I'm here to solve. So I don't blame anybody, any my staff or any patient for that matter, for vulnerability of corruption of nation, or India for that matter, for my problems. My life, my practice is my responsibility. I don't have to blame anybody for that. Second thing, then I look at the moment I have this mindset of this is a challenge, the opportunity given by God for me to grow. I start finding the solution. Most important point is solving the problem is to have a correct question. Many times you don't know what exactly you're doing. So I use my intelligence to find the question. Find the question, maybe my surgical step, it may be my staff shortage, it may be my equipment, it may be material, maybe a legal issues, maybe some question that we can avoid, anything it can. Then try to find a solution. What I realized as my training at Nissan that being an officer leader, I got a fantastic training in the professors, and he used to tell that everyone of us is a leader. As a leader, you have to find a good quality in your team, but build a good team. The sir has done a beautiful team nature is there. What he has done, he has just identified a correct person, correct job, delegated that work to him, identified leadership potential. In a small setup, like I'm a small setup, I have few persons doing computers, some person doing communication, some person doing system, some person doing surgery. So I once I develop a team, identify the leadership potential everyone of them, then delegate that work to them, match was becomes easy. Then the sir said, I'm responsible, I don't blame anybody for that. I'm the person, the work starts with me alone. Then it becomes a beautiful process to enjoy. And whatever I do as a leader, only 4 consequences can happen. There is as a human being, I can do something. But what consequence will happen only 4? I get what I want. I get more than what I want. I get less than what I want. I get opposite of what I want. Nothing doesn't feel possible. Doing something as a leader is my doing. But getting a consequence is his doing. I have no control over it. So once I do something as a leader, I have a consequence. I get what I want. Suppose I did a cataract surgery, I expected a 6'9" vision, I got 6'9", I got what I want. I got more, I got patient got 6'5", I got more than what I want. I got less, patient got 6'22". But suppose I had a dissident impulse drop. But that was not in my hand, intention was not that. But whatever consequence happens like that, what am I doing? But we accept it, and the beauty of journey is that the leadership doesn't end here. It's not the end of the game, it's the end of the game. You can go back and execute the next choice. So once this game keeps playing of leadership, doing something, getting a consequence, doing something, getting a consequence, learning from the mission. I think that's what the team is all about. And sir is a standing example here, sitting example here. That was such a beautiful day. Good leaders like as well as the Marathi Rajesh Joshi. Beautiful days. You got a beautiful day. You yourself as a peer specialist. Yeah.
Yeah. I think sir has they have covered most of the points. But I just to my point, my view. Most of us are in private practice, and there we have got small setups. So as a team leader, I think the commander which we develop with our staff, I think that's more important. We delegate jobs, but in the private practice, you do have to always supervise the job has been done. A simple thing like the lens call, if you've got a 3-4 cases, there is a lens call, so it should be documented somewhere, it should be put on the OP also that you don't mix up things. Then I would also say if you got a complicated case to be posted, it's better that you have all the other things under control. Like it's sometimes I do prefer that my regular assistant is there for the case, my regular sister is there for the case, my OP boy is there. So these are things which will finally give us a better outcome. As a team leader, I would say we have to keep a look at all these small things in a private setup, and right from affiliation to the autoclaving and everything has to be seen properly. And though you delegate jobs, I think it's our responsibility, and we should be able to supervise and document it when present medical legal area. It's better to have all the registers and document it properly. As we all know now, the PMC has started randomly checks for all these things, so it's a good thing that we are also up to date. And luckily, I'm also into a teaching institute. As Sir said, as a leader, you have to always supervise the cases which we get. Then you can identify some students who do better cases. Then you can be a bit more bold to give proper surgery, more surgeries to those cases. But yes, the patient's eye and the patient should be the foremost. That the result should be. So anytime you feel that surgery is not going the right way, it's your right to take away the take over as a case. The students do complain that they have particular media, but I think first aim should be that the patient's eye, the vision, what we give the patient should be our aim. And developing the commander between your staff and the rest of the team is always better, so that everything, the OT environment, everything that will help to give better results, peace of mind, and the patient should be the foremost in whatever you decide.
Yeah, so my last 2 weeks, I just have to get all. In my 10 years of journey in private practice, what I see myself as a team member more than as a team leader. Whose presence is there everywhere, but I see to it that all the people working around me, my team, they are the team leaders, and I am a member of their team wherever they perform. So a very small analogy is something like I'm like the presence of either salt or sugar, where I'm there for everyone. My presence is felt, but it is ultimately the beverage that we cherish. So it is ultimately the victory of my team in whatever they want to accomplish. So my job is to identify what they are up to in their life, what is stopping them from accomplishing them. We all have our hidden fears in accomplishing things. So if I can identify what is stopping that person from doing a particular task, from taking those responsibilities, somewhere he has failed in his life or has identified himself as a failure, to have a small conversation, make the person comfortable, and it's like, you keep a cube of ice on the table, it's 25, 26, 27, it doesn't melt. 30, 31, it doesn't melt. But the minute it is 32 degrees, it starts melting. So it's a latent potential of a person which will, it is only during that time that a person will think about giving up because we don't see instant results in life. But the moment you know the 32 degree of that person will click and he will just jump and perform. So it is for the leader to be patient and understanding the potential of a person and keep on working continuously and not giving up on the person. Never give up on your team members. They are always there to perform for you. That's why they are your team members. So I treat them as my team leaders and myself as a team member of their team. So it has paid me a long way, and I'm very happy following that formula.
Yeah, excellent points. Excellent points by all of you. Just move on to the next segment. So I want to ask you, Pooja, again, since you have the mic. What was the latest or the newest surgical procedure that you did, or a new step in a surgery, and how do you approach this? Because when we train in our postgraduate or our fellowship days, we train in a particular pattern, we do certain number of surgeries, but ultimately when we are performing surgeries in our practice, we know we face situations where we have to improvise, where we have to think out of the box, and probably we do something different. But there is a process involved here. And the most important part is we don't have the luxury of time to learn new techniques and new skills. So therefore, I want to start with you and then of course pass on to the others. So what was the latest or the newest surgical step or procedure that you did? And what was your approach and how did you go about it?
Okay, so the latest one that I have done recently in the last 2-3 months is ptosis surgery by the internal approach. So for me, I am a very open person and I also like very open approaches. So I have always been doing the external levator surgeries with the skin approach. So there was this is a mental block for me to approach transconjunctival and operate on the levator muscle. So and I have got good candidates for them, but I always approach the external way because I was very sure about getting the results. So it was this block that I wanted to overcome, and I desperately wanted to overcome that block. So I had lined up patients, I evaluated them, I spoke with them, I was honest with them. This is a new technique for me. And being honest with your patients always help. They either stay or they go. Good for you. So so that was one approach I remember. And more than performing the procedure, you know you are technically advanced, you are sophisticated, you are well trained, you have worked with the best of people in the world. That all is there in front of you. But the block which is there in your mind is there only in the back of your mind. People cannot see. So my biggest challenge was to overcome that. And of course, I learned the technique. I went back, I saw my videos, I spoke to my mentors, I discussed it with them. What am I dealing with? How should I approach? Go ahead. And I went ahead and I did 2 surgeries in one day. One was a conjunctival for mitosis, and the other was a transconjunctival levator resection surgery. So at the end of the day, I was jumping and dancing. And I was so thrilled with it. Yes, I can do it. It is possible for me to do it. So overcoming that mental block of being able to perform a surgery and giving good outcomes to a patient and enrolling the patients is a process that you are there for them. You are not treating them as limited just to learn a surgery. So I think that way.
Acquiring new skills, I think that's the most important journey as a good surgeon. So when I was doing my fellowship, everything was 20 gauge. So when I came out, I was well proficient in doing 20 gauge vitrectomies. When I came out, everyone had already started doing 23 gauge. So to acquire new skills, the first problem with me was to have a 23 gauge capable vitrectomy machine. So luckily, when I joined Vinod Mandesh Hospital, we had those facilities. But I was a bit hesitant to still start 23 gauge. But talking to peers, my friends who had passed out with me, Dr. Sachin was my senior and he had started doing 23 gauge. So it was essential to take tips from them how to convert to 23 gauge because I had done in 23 gauge. But once I started doing 23 gauge, I could see. So initial cases selection was the simple ones, the simple vitrectomy rate, the simple micro these surgeries. And once I got confidence into that, then I started shifting what is it. I think hardly anyone ever does not really. Everything have to, they have shifted to 25 and 27 and 23. Other thing is, luckily with all these YouTube videos and WhatsApp, we have all these groups where they keep on sharing everything. Someone does something new, they do share the small videos. It's really a good thing to pick up those videos and start learning those things. But I would just say, for example, Yamane surgical fixation technique, it came big way in the last 2-3 years. But when I started doing initially those Yamane, I always had a backup skill fixated the sutured one or iris claw lens at hand. So when I got proficient in doing Yamane nowadays, I don't think twice of doing the sutured fixated. But in initial cases, you always should have a backup that where you're well versed with so that the patient shouldn't suffer. It shouldn't happen that you have planned a Yamane, you don't have a skill you're not able to do that and the patient still remains okay. You should always have a backup plan in mind and then go ahead with the surgical skill. New techniques. And I think luckily with the YouTube videos and this, it's all evolving nowadays day by day.
Then learning new skills is a part of the process, part of the growth. There's nothing like every day something else will keep coming on. My exposure has been 2 ways. One, the challenges I'm facing in my day-to-day practice. one step I'm not going to do properly, or I don't know what to do in that step. That's one challenge I face. Second thing, when I attend a conference or live workshops, I get to see new videos, new techniques being done or in WhatsApp groups or in social media. One thing just helped me best is that do your homework properly. Like you do a lot of research on this, a lot of videos you see. Your selection of the patient is very critical, as Pooja perfectly pointed out, the communication of the patient is extremely important because otherwise you mess up the whole thing. One thing that's helped me the best actually is directly one-to-one communication with my teachers. Because see, if I done 100 surgeries, then 1,000 surgeries. So they know much more than what I know about myself. And I have been blessed to have such a good teacher that even about the night I call them, they pick up my call and answer my question. A number of things happen. There are many steps I have not done as a parent. I don't know, I have not done LPCF, Silpa, exchange my police, I want to do. When it comes to first time doing my private practice and a inpatient, I just paid my child, I just remember my teacher paid, we did the step, it happened. What helped me is my unconditional faith in my teachers. Whatever I call them, I call my teacher, they say, Sachin, Chaisa kar ho jaye. I don't ever doubt what I call. I just unconditional faith they were discussing, they always are grateful to me, we just do it, it happens. It works, that's as simple as that. More importantly, I do that kind of feedback, whatever I'm doing. Suppose it's not possible that every whole surgery I perfectly already first go. There will be some hiccups, some will be there. As Captain said, have a backup plan, be ready for that. But usually, once you analyze 2-3 times, you get it. It depends on everybody learning curve, how fast they learn. One thing just was, we just said, face your fears. Like, I always have a fear. Career, I failed I failed in this, I failed a complication. But to avoid the fear goes. I face the fear goes. That's what. That's it.
Rajesh.
Yeah, in fact, surgery last week only, patient was operated for keratoplasty, and patient came for cataract. Patient had national cataract. So initial things were fine, but when I saw chamber collapsing, my superior food was increasing from 20 gauge to increasing, so that most of the fluid tried to come out through the same incision. So it was like 90 minutes. So what to do now? So that the incision was closed, and another incision exactly opposite, that side port incision exactly opposite to the main incision was taken. So it was like temporal side port and basal, temporal ear corner and the basal side port. So it was difficult to handle, but somehow I did that. Another thing, the patient came for spectacle free vision around 3 to 4 months back, and JMC we had a MOS sheet, and most of the cases, whatever the criteria is there, we do by LASIK or PRK. But unfortunately, this patient had flap cut. It was halfway through the pupil. And we managed it, but flap was placed properly. And patient had to wait for 3 months for another surgery, whatever flap. So PRK was not explored in that machine because some moves are there definitely, but we were not aware of that. And I was scared of performing epithelial debridement by alcohol. So I called the company people what we can do for this patient. We told that there is epithelial mode where we can remove the epithelium and go for PRK. But there are some limitations also because of that machine is too cold. But finally we could do that in that patient because in fact hard waiting for me to perform PRK because I did that first PRK in that patient. But if it was that patient is also doing well. So these two things we explored, and now we are thinking of performing more PRKs for small. That was the new thing which we recognized in the machine.
So the most important part is consistency. Unless you have consistency in results, everything doesn't matter. So I'm going to only pick up 2 people out of this panel, given the time constraints. Sachin, I want you to talk about what's your approach to having consistency.
The most important is to be what has helped me is a lifelong student. Being a student, doesn't matter what you do, there's always something to learn from your patients. And one thing which is getting a feedback. feedback from the patient, feedback from myself, feedback from my team who's assisting me, feedback from anesthetist, feedback what happened during my surgery, and achieve my own results for the patient was supposed to. One thing, just think that it has to be honest assessment. Do not discuss anybody. That okay, these are my flaws, this is where I can improve. There always room of improvement every day. And suppose I'm doing case consistently and it's not beyond. But personally, I feel consistency I'm not comfortable with. It has to be both. So if I'm getting good surgery today, next day should be slightly better than what I did yesterday. If I'm consistent and plateau, I get stuck, which I'm not comfortable with. So consistency personally, okay, that's what is there, but I move from maybe gradual growth, but the rest of it. One thing is that get a feedback always and have honest assessment with yourself. And any infos in the system, maybe a paper or maybe a surgical step, maybe instruments, maybe a procurement of instruments. As I said, in a private sector, you have to be multiple, like you have to do everything. Doing a surgery, think about the class I have, machine I have, surgery is ready, patients ready. And all these things, attention to details will give me consistency. If you lose attention details, then I mess with my consistency. There's one mistake. Give attention details, minor things, very, very minor things. But give attention details and do things with consistency, but with care and comfort. Things done well done with care, not free from fear. That's what they say. If you're doing with all the attention details and doing things properly, with honest assessment to yourself, I think you can maintain the consistency.
And I want to pick up the other VR surgeon in the panel because we know VR surgery is difficult and achieving consistencies in something like this is not easy. So, Ketan.
As Dr. Sadiq said, I think it's like audit of your own previous cases. So now you must have seen that a lot of promotions that you buckles have gone and everything, but if you put a brand or excellent brand for reputation, so people are saying it's gone, but if you feel that the results are best, you need to counsel the patient and go ahead and put in the brand of reputation. So you must have, we all do, we also say now it's not required, I know when it's age, but unfortunately the patient comes back to the attachment. And then you have your back of mind, if I had put a better in this case, the result would have been better. So after analyzing the cases, you know which cases, though whatever the word may say, if you feel in your hands the results are going to be best with the combined approach, it's better to still stick to that, counsel the patient, and give the best result to the patient. Another thing is, for example, in cataract surgery, preoperative assessment, looking for small refractive errors, everything needs to go to that, then gives the better results. Then even for small matter, using the same irrigating fluid, same viscoelastic, you get a bad experience using another viscoelastic, you go back to the same visco. So all these things no matter in giving the final result. So once you do a lot many cases, you know which surgical steps and what mindset and what approaches give the best results. I think you need to continue those. If you feel they are lacking somewhere, then you need to innovate and try to give better results. But self-audit is the best thing, and what works best in your hand should be done.
Right, I'm going to ask this question to Dr. Rajesh and Pooja. We all have experienced this feeling of tachycardia, that sinking heart, and we know how it feels. So how do you, when you face a complication, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I think the surgeon who faces complication is better than anyone else. It is more safe and done that you should remain calm and you should sit and relax. But it's difficult for those surgeons who face these complications. Of course, everything should be ready for it, but it may not happen every time because the complications may not come every time, like the ankle, the of it. So I would again say that keep cool and calm. That is the most important thing. Don't shout. But it happens whenever complications happen. You definitely shout at your colleagues or sisters or whatever. So that is difficult to say. But you have to handle your team. That is your partner. You have done it, now you have to handle. So keep the things ready. Expect complications in every case. Every case is different and expect it. So keep things ready. Maybe small thing like junior days, or whatever, any stage. So keep things ready, expect it. That is, I think, the key word. And keep things ready. Those are the most important part. And face the patient. Whenever you have complications, it is important to face the patient rather than listen to same music later on in the post-operative period. When you expect a complication, write down on the paper that these things are going to happen. And these have been told to you previously also. That is also to be printed on patient's mind when patients come forward. Modify treatment management. If you think that is going to help, modify treatment management. And always refer to your colleague if you are not able to handle. That is the most important part.
Pooja.
I remember the father of process surgery, Dr. Collins said, even when I recommended this surgery, still after every process surgery, I was sleepless night. So, post-operative outcomes are unpredictable in oculoplasty. But dealing with pre-operative, intraoperative, and post-operative. Pre-operative, what I follow ways to avoid complications is we have a very clear consent, verbal and on paper, with adequate time to the patient to read the consent, read the expected sequelae and complications expected out of the surgery. Have a clear, open two-way communication where the patients are open and free to ask questions regarding the outcome because they are going to go under the knife. So they have every right, and treating them with that much respect that they have the right to question you. I think a lot of time spent before the surgery aggravates a lot of complications after surgery. So that is one thing that works. But yes, intraoperatively, as Dr. Rajesh said, we tend to lose our temper. A good way that I find is practicing cooking and painting. It helps me. It helps me cool down. It makes me a human being to understand that yes, I am not perfect at everything. I will never be perfect. Perfection is a journey, it's an illusion. But yes, I can improve every day. I can try to cut vegetables in equal sizes. So likewise, when I'm handling something intraoperatively, I was operating very closely with it for illustration. And never in my life, but that day I need the ophthalmic artery. The first thought that came to my mind, close relative ophthalmic artery, what do I do? And it's working like something. Okay, fine. First, what do I do? Principles of general surgery, clamp the artery. Okay, clamp the artery. Now what do I do? The artery is not working enough to cauterize it. Okay, that's where my reading skills come around, my reading skills come around. To read anything that is not ophthalmic. Probably in the last 4 or 5 years, I have not read a textbook of ophthalmology, but I have read many stupid things in the world. So, okay, so that makes you a crazy thinker. It is very important to be a crazy thinker, something that you will never happen will always help you. So, I got my, I was operating in a multi-specialty setup. So I asked my sister, do you have that vascular clips the vascular surgeons use? Are they handy? Yes, we have them. Fine, get them. So ultimately, I had to clip the ophthalmic artery with the endo clipper, but it worked. So thinking out of the box, being crazy at times, it always works at the right situation that you want it. And I explained it after surgery, but this is what I have done for you. And probably this is the first time, and I wish it was the last time that I've done it in my life. But it did work. At the end of the day, it was a happy ending for all of us.
Yes, Sachin. Actually, the reason why I didn't ask the two of you because you're the guys who take care of our complications, so you're used to it.
So we don't have our complications also.
These things are okay for us.
Putting my advice, beautifully put, you to be crazy thinker, to Steve Jobs, stay on this definition. Steve Jobs like example. But I personally feel that, as you said, the US is not that they don't have complications. Yes, we do. Recently, all of us have a complication. I don't think anyone is doing good at a complication. The way of looking at it, even I just learned from my teacher that even my teachers have a complication. Used to pause for a minute for a second. Just sit back, just catch his breath, focus on his breathing. That worked quite well. Just gather your thoughts, gather your emotions, get your adrenaline down, and then it will rational thinking what to do next. Usually what happens in a complication of in a sway of that moment, you keep something you have in place, or you just keep practicing this going and then create more complexity. This is what's happening, take a pause. Maybe we have something handle it, we know it is much better if not pushing out. So take a break if you have complication, take few seconds break, if not make this. Catch your breath and think rational break. That's one thing. There's something of kappa, corrective action and preventive action, CAPA, kappa we call it. So once you are in a complication, you do some corrective action right there, what can be done? You want to run to the case, go preventive action, what led to that call. And so it should not happen again. So follow the kappa principles.
We move on to the last segment of this, and I'm going to give you only 1 minute each of you. So you have the privilege of teaching surgery to your trainees. What's your approach to that?
Yeah, I think you want to say mentorship. So I think it's an ongoing process and serious business. And as far as teaching is concerned, it should be a stepwise, maybe from daily to egg, or from daily to from A to daily, maybe say reverse learning process. Like easiest step first and the difficult step at last. That's what I usually follow in my teaching.
Well, that's a beautiful good introduction. True leaders create more leaders, not followers. So when I teach every person or a student for me, I make sure that he doesn't go dependent on any information. So teach as much as I can, open as much as I can. Okay, and there is a backup for the person if something goes wrong. But stage should come that you should not feel like a backup. You should have this leader, but then following. So,
I think as officers are duty to teach the young officers, duty towards the society. So I feel the first thing I make sure that the student is well read. He has done some basic steps before, and then I need to supervise all it. And then once you know his well, then we can be more bold to give him more steps. But he should be well read, and he should, by himself, he should be inclined to learn. So those are the students who can really do well later on.
Yeah, so mentoring for me it's a passion. I love teaching, not because I like to teach and boast about it, but I like to share what I have with me and what I have gathered in the journey of my life. So what I like to practice is in the OR, I'm more of a silent person and I encourage the person, whoever aspirant is assisting me. While I'm a very open and clear, honest relationship with them, and I make them comfortable asking me whatever question they want to ask me. It doesn't have to be a very logical and intelligent question. The moment they watch this craft and then please be honest and open to whatever you want to do, you will never make the surgery go wrong. It will be me. So you are open to assist the way you want to assist, but please be open and asking whatever you want to ask. It can be as simple as holding an instrument to the way you mop, or probably the way you hold a forceps or a needle holder, or why am I doing a particular step, or the very simple thing that you cannot visualize the surgical field. Please don't stand here as a just as someone assisting, but stand here as a person who wants to step in my shoes tomorrow. So that is what you are for and I am for. So that works very well.
Well, I'm sure every one of you have got some nuggets of wisdom from these young, experienced surgeons. So as we come to the end of this panel discussion, I will just say a few words. There's a famous saying, to become instantly popular, it takes 20 years. We all perform surgeries of various types and difficulty, but all of us must incorporate a systematic method and plan for our procedures, an algorithm of sorts, to help us not only perform routine surgeries, but the tough ones too, and especially account for unforeseen situations. So this is the only way to bring consistency and patient satisfaction. In the elite commando force, the Navy SEALs, there are 3 principles that are ingrained in the minds of young recruits, which apply to us as well. And they are: be patient, be in the present, and be deliberate in thoughts and actions. I sincerely thank the organizers of this program, Maharashtra Ophthalmological Society, Dr. Jignesh Taswala, Dr. Rajesh Joshi, Dr. Tejaswini Valinde, Dr. Sucheta Kulkarni, and the HV Desai team for arranging this wonderful LDP session. I wish all the LDP participants all the very best. And there is just one thought which came to my mind. If you want to know what a true leader is, there is one sitting right in front of you, the youngest student, that oldest student with the youngest heart, Colonel Madan Deshpande sir, who has been taking diligent notes on what was being discussed. And I think that really drives home the message. Thank you very much, all.
Great show, Dr. Madan. I would like Colonel Deshpande sir to end up the remarks, parting remarks from you, and also Sashi Prasad madam.
I consider myself very fortunate that I had a teacher like respected Rajesh Joshi. He was our teacher, so we learned so many things from him. How to behave in OT, how to have discipline inside the OT etiquettes, and we should have good training, and we should believe in our team. So what I learned from sir, that he always believed in us. He used to give us training. During our time, there was only ICC. He used to say, you do yourself. I want to see how much competition you can do. And whatever competition you will do, I will manage it. So that confidence he gave us, so we could perform very nicely. So, and I also believe that truthfulness is very important in cooking. So if you have not done anything, or if you have done anything wrong, just admit and say, sorry, I did not do this. So that is what from my side. Thank you so much. Thank you, Master.
That's it. The principle of learning, becoming a leader is to learn. The Sanskrit proverb says that lifelong you are a teacher. You should be a teacher. Sorry, lifelong you should be a student to learn. And you will feel that you're going to live another 100 years, so that whatever you are learning is going to be useful to you. If you want to give something, give it. You don't know next moment you may be done there. So your whole life you should go on picking up good things for yourself, for others. That's the way you should. Talking about this part of the seminar, one thing is very important that came out. One has to de-learn to learn new things. Whatever you pick up bad things, or whatever, I cannot call them bad things, maybe you have a contemporary knowledge, whatever it is, we pick up that thing and then we keep on holding to it. What we call as unnecessary stress, which lengthen the surgical procedure. And that one has to categorically shed it, de-learn. Unless we do that, we don't learn anything. Secondly, he talked about core competence. Sachin talked about core competence. Now, we should find out in your team what are core competences of a person, and give him that job, you will flourish, you come out as a leader. That's what the job of a leader is, to find out. And then you should have systems. You talked about systems. You have good systems in operation theater, your work, so that unless you have good systems, you're not have any complications. And getting disturbed, not getting disturbed during complication, I think you have to be in it. I'm not saying anybody not shouting, not making a noise, and we are all used to it. We have seen our professors doing that. We have seen our colleagues doing it, our juniors doing it. But then one thing is, you should forget it. Don't keep it in your mind. Maybe there's an expression that comes out natural, but one should not linger in your mind. Who has done it? Why should it sound it? That fellow is bad. Next time you give again, that's it. Otherwise, you not learn. So Shashi talked about confidence. Yes, we did that. One thing I used to tell them that whenever asked question about theory knowledge, you answer. Sense or nonsense, I don't bother. You learn to answer, because that hesitancy should go. Automatically you'll find that people read, come out with a sensible sort of answers. Secondly, in surgery, if you scare them, like I learned, what I did learn was, we never get surgery. We used to have our process will come, we do all finish surgery, last case you give, every case of a glaucoma, and those were the days of doing with a knife, and then everything is to come out. Anything you're useless, therefore you never learn surgery in your life. And whole life now we used to see that now our hands to shake so much that when you're doing right surgery, right hand used to go to the left hand. Because we were so much scared to the death. So when we became teachers, we thought that we should not scare that much to people. We have to de-learn everything and learn to be a good surgeon. So you give them confidence, tell them you have the same competencies, same sort of a potential that as I am, or better than me. But every professor, every teacher has a, at least in our scripture, they say, एक सुप्त इच्छा होती है, secret desire in his mind that my sort of a student should be better than me. Shishya Parajay. My disciple should defeat me, he should become better in skills. That's why you teach them. Give them confidence. That's very, very important. Of course, there are new methods now about wet lab and sort of innovation. Third thing, they talk about innovation. I think complications should not be there. But once the complications are there, they are mother of innovations. You learn, there's research, how to avoid them. So we should not, they say we should not be scared of complications. Think about it and innovate a way to avoid it. And these are sort of things. Then one more thing is there, all of us, the one element of that thing in us, which comes out at time of emergency, what we call intuitive knowledge. All of you must have realized that whatever that thing, that is not there with us. You think that we don't have, but that comes up to deal with the situations and complications. So that's how it is life. We go on teaching, but when you teach, don't teach him like he's a junior, he's a useless fellow. Teach him that he's like, you should have empathy while teaching, not only empathy while treatment, teaching a patient, treating a patient, but also should have empathy while teaching. That's very important. Respect has to be there. You respect, get back in play. Thank you. And safety. Yes, most important is I would like to become a safe surgeon rather than a best surgeon.
Yeah. Very nice, sir.
Enjoyable session, truly innovative and nicely conducted by Dr. Mandar Paranjpe. And thank you all the panelists, Dr. Rajesh Joshi, Dr. Sachin Kabra, Dr. Ketan Jathar, and Dr. Pooja Goel for being with us for the first session. I hand over this to Dr. Rakesh.
Thank you, sir, for such inspiring words. I would like to call upon stage Dr. Taswala sir to felicitate Colonel Mentee and Shashi.
We learn a lot from you.
Nicely conducted.
I think we must thank you for the shifting.
Yeah.
Rajesh. सर हमारा सेक्रेटरी काम जो बोलते हैं आपके पीछे as an LDP participant also.
And most important thing is,
So life is a learning process.
despite in government, is doing good work.
Yes. That's it. We thought instead of giving flowers and all, which just perish in a day or two, this is going to be with you for lifelong. So that is something innovative. Yeah, I was just going to tell, well, let's have a group photo. Each session that we have. Sucheta. What about this? Is this entering? Where is the? हाँ वर्षा बंद करता है क्या? Sir,
You have one, and then you have everybody on the stage and take another photo so that everybody can.
Sir of the pre-lunch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you everyone for a wonderful session. I'm sure it inspired all of us, especially beginners like us. Coming up, the next session is by Dr. Sucheta Kulkarni ma'am. It's called Leadership Journey. Let's talk basics. So I invite ma'am on stage. The chairman for the session is Dr. Santosh Bhide sir and the co-chairman is Dr. Bharucha sir. I invite you on stage.
Thank you, MOS, for this wonderful opportunity. So by the time my presentation is loaded, I would just like to know who all are the participants for today's LDP program. Can you just raise your hand? Just to ensure that I've made each one of you. Okay, thank you. Ready? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to cover the very basic concepts of leadership. I think most of the concepts have already been covered by Colonel Deshpande sir and many other panelists. Okay. So let me just disclose here that some of the slides have been taken from Amy Brockman, who was my leadership coach in London way back in 2015-16. So to all the participants, my first question is, what is a leader? Any thoughts? Anyone?
Can stand up, open up the discussion. Anybody and everybody who can.
So I'll try to keep it informal, interactive session. Marathi Mishrit English मध्ये करणार आहे. I hope everyone understands Marathi. What are your thoughts on a leader? Yes, Reshma.
A leader is who is ready to give whatever knowledge he has in all sorts.
Yes, okay. Any other thought? Anyone? Yes, Ashwini.
Explore the interest.
Okay, Kalyan, can you just pass on the mic? Okay, so leader is someone who provides opportunity for his students to explore and gain new knowledge. Yes, that's a wonderful way of defining a leader. Any other thought? Abhilasha? Okay.
Asmita, you can take the mic.
Is it working? Yeah, because there are people who have logged in on Zoom, so try to be little louder for them to hear properly.
It's all India, doing pan India. Open up.
Or you can just come up in the center and talk. This mic will pick up your voice. Abhilasha, please. Yes.
So in a nutshell, I think leader is the one who, whatever he tries to teach his juniors or students, he sets an example from that. So instead of talking, always I think I have learned from my leaders through the examples, how they handled, and they just, Marathi म्हणतात, जैसे बोले तैसे चालत्याची वंदावी पावले.
So leading from the front. Yeah. Asmita.
Yes, I think.
When I think of the word leader, someone who is leading you in two terms. So the idea that a visual impression that I have is, for example, like a mountain climbing. So there are multiple paths you can take, but then if there is someone who has already explored all of it and has chosen what is the safest and the best, you follow them where should you put your next foot and where you shouldn't. And if you have put it somewhere where you shouldn't, you're falling how to get out of it. So someone who is experienced, when you follow that path, you're also learning faster rather than you again start from zero and start exploring again.
Excellent. Yeah. And Radhika wants to say something, and then we go on to have discussion on some examples. Yeah.
I think apart from setting an example to others, I think a leader is someone who would take responsibility for the shortcomings of their team and try to rectify the actions or the shortcomings, who can take decisions better and faster to rectify the actions, would be a leader in my.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think all of you have covered most of the points in my presentation already. Okay, can we just discuss 2 or 3 examples? Can you give some examples of a good leader? Just 1 or 2 or 3 names. Anyone? Not necessarily from ophthalmology field. Okay, 1 example.
So many leaders.
Just give any 1 name. Yes, Abhilasha.
A lot of time it happens that in our career, our mentors are our leaders all the time. So, and they make impact through their words during the crisis time. So, just to ask the reflexively, I remember one of my teachers, Dr. Mastudha from Narayana. She always said, I asked something and she said, whenever you are in doubt, just think that you are treating your own child. And it has solved so many problems for me. And another, Dr. Nirmala from Hopkins, I had so many anxieties that I was within a minute he connected to me, he said hi, auditory, and he said, okay, I saw a very interesting patient yesterday, let me tell you. That was a point that
Okay, so your HODs in the past have been great leaders for you. Okay, good. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so there are 3 very important characteristics of a leader. 3 important characteristics of leader, 3 P's of a leadership: people, passion, and perseverance. So leader is someone who cares very, very deeply for his people or for his followers. He is very passionate about the cause or for the vision that he has, to the extent of sometimes being obsessed with the vision that he has. And he is someone who will never give up, even in the most adverse situation. So perseverance is a hallmark quality of a leader. So always remember these 3 P's and try and inculcate them in yourself all the time. So leader is someone who has a vision. Consider that we are here and we want to reach there. So leader is someone who has that vision of reaching there, and he will take his followers along the way to ensure that everyone reaches there at a desired point of time. And to put it very simply, a leader is someone who takes charge of the situation and not only does his bit, but also helps others do their bit. And in the process, makes many more great leaders. So what are the essential qualities of a leader? Any 3 qualities? Anyone? There are many more essential qualities actually, but just name 2 or 3.
patience.
Patience, yes. Optimism. Forgiveness. Okay, thank you very much. So as I said, there are hundreds of qualities which are essential in a leader, but personally, I think passion, integrity is one of the most important characteristics. Someone who has always a good intention behind every action that he or she does, and who always sticks to the plan or sticks to his or her own words. That is very important. Empathy. Someone who, there is a difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is feeling bad for someone, and empathy is feeling exactly the emotions that other person is going through. So to be a good leader, you have to have empathy and you have to be a very good listener. Sincerity, all the time you should be giving your 100% in whatever you are doing. That is what defines a good leader. Courage, sometimes the situation is such that you have to take a decision which may not be very convenient for everyone, but in the long run it is going to be of great help for the larger good. So you have to be able to take those inconvenient decisions, and for that you need a great amount of courage. Team spirit, of course, a leader is someone who will include everyone in the team, right from the bottom strata in the hierarchy to the highest level person. And he is someone who should be able to give credit. Leader cannot be credit hungry. When it comes to giving credit, a leader should step back and give credit to his team and not steal the credit from him. And he also should be someone who has a keen sense of justice. Leader cannot be biased. Leaders cannot afford to have personal likes and dislikes. So they have to be objective all the time. Let's do some myth busting. One of the common myths is that leadership and management are the same. They are not. Then second myth is you have to be in a senior position to be a leader. It is also not true, and we will discuss that with the examples. And followers of leaders are subordinate and powerless people. That is also one of the common myths, And here the picture shows the difference between a leader and a manager or a boss. Leader will always include himself in the task that is being carried out and lead from the front, whereas a boss or a bad leader would sit back, relax, and tell his team what is to be done, and will not be involved in the action that is being carried out. And sometimes even the junior most person in your team can do an act of leadership. So let me give you an example. In our department, Retina is one of the most crowded departments in HVDSI, and rarely it may so happen that because of long waiting time or even because of the fact that sometimes the outcomes are not as good as in cataract. After post cataract, sometimes patients turn hostile, and typically when a patient turns aggressive, we doctors just don't know how to handle such patient, because we have never been trained to be aggressive with the people that we are treating with. So in such scenario, I always take help of one of the optometrists in my department, who's very good in handling people who are in an aggressive mode. So that is when we doctors would usually step back and allow that optometrist to take the leadership role, and in no time the situation will be diffused. So this is how the leadership responsibilities would keep on changing depending on the situation. And as I said, a true leader would never allow his followers to be powerless. He would encourage them, empower them to become leaders. So let's talk a bit about situational leadership. Situational leadership is an adaptive leadership style where a leader chooses a style after assessing his team members and also assessing factors which are affecting the workspace. So there are basically four styles of leadership. Telling style is usually a one-way communication where a leader dictates what is to be done and then closely observes how the things are being done. One good example of this is, teaching surgery to a junior most doctor, a junior resident. You just tell them what is to be done and you closely observe how they are doing. So the junior doctors are not in a position to take decision in such scenario. So that is telling style of leadership. The selling style of leadership is you sell your ideas, you make them partners in the ideas that you are sharing and allow them to buy in those ideas and then involve them in the task. And the leader is always open to suggestions in such a manner. So again, I would like to give example where we have a properly structured protocol for carrying out our outpatient department activities, and we are operating 150 or more surgeries every day. So it needs a lot of teamwork where every team member's role and responsibility is defined. So when we are making changes in the protocol for say, outreach patients workup, evening workup, what we call it as, we always take feedback from the residents who are involved in that activity. So we as leaders, even if I am a consultant or another person is a consultant here, we don't know how the things are being worked out on the ground. So we always take suggestions from our chief residents or senior resident and then make changes according to their suggestion. So that's a selling style of leadership. Participating style is where, again, a leader shares his ideas and facilitates, allows, empowers his followers to a certain extent and leaves the decisions to them, allows them to carry out the tasks independently, and they seek his opinion whenever they need it. So this is typically a fellow happens in a specialty department where we train our fellows for a year, and the last 6 months of their fellowship they work more or less independently. So the leader or the head of the department or consultant is allowing participating type of involvement where fellows are carrying out their independent activities and seeking his or her opinion whenever required. And delegating style is completely a leader takes a backseat and allows the team to do whole work independently. This is an example of this is our consultants, senior consultants managing all the day-to-day decisions without asking or involving the unit in charge. So this is like delegating style. They are completely empowered to do whatever they want just to ensure that OPD or OT is running smoothly, and they ask for input only during crucial situations. And one may need to change from one style to another style depending on the situation that one is facing. Can there be a bad leader? Yes or no? Yes. So what differentiates a good leader from a bad leader? Any thoughts? Any comments? Okay. Values. किंवा मराठीत आपण त्याला तत्व म्हणू शकतो किंवा संस्कार. So good, how to differentiate between good and a bad leader? Bad leader tends to be selfish. He puts his own interest above everyone else's interest. Sometimes he is a control freak, doesn't empower his subordinates to do independent activities. He is always worried about his own status rather than being worried about the service. And he can be unjust. He can be very biased. So can we think of some examples of bad leaders? Again, leave the ophthalmology out of this. You can give examples from other fields and try and think of an example which is known to everyone. Yeah, Nikita, yes. Hitler, yes. Vladimir Putin, that's again a subjective thing. So if you ask Western nations, of course, yes. But if you ask Eastern nations, maybe yes or no.
Nobody can dispute Rahul Gandhi.
Let's take it as a joke. No political comments. Okay. And examples of, again, one more example of bad leader could be Churchill. For Indians, for Britishers, he was a great leader who allowed them to go through World War, helped them go through the World War II. But for Indians, he was the person responsible for the Great Bengal famine, where 40 lakh Indians lost their lives due to shortage of food because all the food had to be sent to England to provide for their own citizens. This brings me to a point where I would strongly recommend each one of you to undergo this Barrett personal value assessment test, which is freely available on the internet. And this is something very, very interesting way of assessing yourself, where you stand on these 7 levels of consciousness. There are I think 30-40 questions which you have to answer, and you will get a ready-made result at the end of that test. It's an online freely available test, and that test will tell you where on this level of hierarchy of these 7 levels of consciousness you stand. So the basic levels are basic instincts such as survival, relationship, self-esteem. Once all these needs are fulfilled, then it is a transformational phase for a human being, where he starts thinking about, higher things such as selfless service or making a difference to a society. So it's a very interesting way of assessing yourself as a human being. And मराठीत म्हणतात तसं रिकाम्या पोटी अध्यात्म शिकवता येत नाही. So unless your basic 3 levels of consciousness are fulfilled, you can't think of going higher. So when it comes to values, there are 3 types of values: your personal values, your values as a team, and organizational values. And unless all these 3 values are in alignment, an organization can never achieve a great height. So let me give you few examples. So I will share HP Desai's example. So these are the values that we have identified as an organization: honesty, quality, transparency, ethics, and commitment to cause. So these are the values that we, everyone entering into HP Desai in any capacity is always told about mission, vision, and values of the organization. And these are the values that we would like to be inculcated in everyone who's working in the organization. So sometimes there can be gaps in the values, which is when usually you'll see a situation where the team is not going in the one direction or desired direction. So there could be some reduced resilience in some of the team members. There can be some personality traits which can cause, which can hinder the progress of the team, such as impulsivity, narcissism, neuroticism. And unless your own Barrett's personal score and you know how to handle all these types of personality traits, you can't take everyone along. And sometimes there can be unconscious bias. You can visit this particular website to read about it. Because there is shortage of time, I won't be able to explain everything in detail here. And for you to be able to understand yourself and understand your team members very well, do your own SWOT analysis. How many of you know about SWOT analysis? Yeah. So strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. So strengths are your own inherent qualities which will allow your further progress. Weaknesses are areas for development where you have a scope to improve yourself. And strengths and weaknesses are always internal. They have to be dealing with you as yourself. And opportunities and challenges are always external. Opportunities are where you have scope for growing as an organization or growing as a professional. And challenges are external factors which could affect your performance as an organization or as a professional. So again, I'll give you an example of HP Desai. So strengths of HP Desai as an organization are efficient system, expertise, vast experience, trained staff, and extremely competent staff. These are all our strengths that I can identify. Weaknesses are because we are such a large health system, there is sometimes lack of personal touch. Personal one-to-one doctor-patient relationships usually do not develop in such a large system. Opportunities are potential donors. Many corporate donors or multinational companies who are looking for an opportunity or for a worthy cause to donate the huge sum through their CSR funds. These are opportunities for HP Desai. And the threats, everyone knows that COVID has been a great threat, not only to HP Desai, to almost all practitioners. So pandemics or supposedly looming World War III, these are the external threats that we may face as an organization, and we have to be ready with our plan. If at all there is financial recession owing to Third World War or owing to next pandemic, so all those plans have to be in place. And similarly, each one of you can identify your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So what we learn through all these concepts is, that will increase your self-awareness, where you stand as a team member in a big system. And always try and get feedback from your colleagues and from your team members. Doing your own SWOT analysis will improve, develop your situational awareness. You should try and have influencing skills, and leader also needs to have assertive skills to be able to get the things done from his subordinates. and you may have to keep changing your coaching or leadership style depending on the situation that you are in. So what you've learned through this presentation today is just 10% of the leadership knowledge that one could have. What you plan to do from now on is the remaining 90%. And it's a lifelong journey. So before I end, let me just give you a key message that leadership is not a permanent state. Leaders in positions cannot hold monopoly over acts of leadership forever. A leader, when he or she achieves his vision, will usually should step down and allow others to take that leadership position after that. Thank you very much. Any comment or any question? Or we could also have discussion during lunchtime if you have.
Just a quick word from Dr. Santosh Bedi and Dr. Bharucha sir.
Good morning, everybody. Excellent job, Dr. Sucheta. All points covered very well. I would like to give an example of excellent leader. We all love cricket, and I think Dhoni is the best example of leadership. He was young when he was given captaincy. All senior players were in the team, Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid, and we were playing under him. But in spite of that, he was leading them in the best possible way. Second thing, delegation of jobs. You can remember the final over of T20 World Cup in 2007. Joginder Singh was an unknown bowler, but he gave him the responsibility and he just told him that you do your best and you are on the world. I think the leader has to be like Dhoni. The leader should know potential of each and every team member. The leader should lead from the front also. Whenever the team was in crisis, Dhoni always used to lead from the front. Remember the sixer which he hit on the ball against Sri Lanka 2012 finals. So he was. So you have to be like that, and you should not struggle away from your responsibilities. If something goes wrong as a leader, you should take onus on you, even if your team member has failed and because of that there is something for saying OT something goes wrong. Instead of shouting at somebody, for a moment you may shout, but later on you should go to that person and explain that what went wrong and what you should not do again. So, but your talk was really absolutely brilliant talk. Thank you. And thanks for the opportunity. My MOS leader, Dr. Aswala, Tejaswini, Nanda, Rajesh, and of course, team of HDSI, I think we were as a student, we used to do it as a Dronacharya, and we are from the school of economics. So we used to see what he is doing and we used to thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Very nice talk, Sucheta, and very interactive, and the basics of leadership and a good leader. Sucheta's forte is ROP, and besides being a medical director at HDSI and HOD of Retina Department, she runs this very effective ROP program where she's a leader in Western India and creating awareness of the disease, providing accessibility to treatment, and training the next generation, which I think is a very great thing. And in HDSI, of course, we have Colonel Deshpande sir, who is a true leader, who leads from the front, and we always admire him. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm tempted to talk about Dr. Sucheta is a true leader in many senses. She leads from the front after our staff, all operational issues, and then at a very sort of, I would not call her very old, but at a comfortable age, when she had a child to look after, a husband to look after, she took a decision to do masters in county authority, public eye. It's a very difficult decision. Situation at home was not good, but she was very firm. Went there, did that, came back, and implemented. Most important thing, she came back with sort of a treasure, guys, is a quality research. Very few people know what is quality research, give alone doing it. She has a publications on quality research. She has a leader's passion for ROP. She learned it, then practiced it, time and again went to sort of Initially, they went to Sassoon, they shooed away, but insisted with the compassion that the children need to be looked after. Very few people have that sort of a tenacity, sort of a resilience, sort of a, as a sponge absorbing the insults, just for the sake of patient that they are going to go blind. She went there and established sort of a practice there, then trained their own staff, they are looking after. Not only that, very few people know that in 10 districts of Maharashtra, she has trained sort of a ROP yes, program, and people are doing that. And now, apart from that, she has gone to African country, I think Tanzania, and there she established ROP program. As a feather in the cap, she has a meaning. I can go and talk to the whole day. That will be one of the leadership about her. And apart from that, she had a rare opportunity. People in whole life, they stay in London, they cannot see you in Queen. She had an opportunity to shake hands. Among the 1,200 delegates, she was chosen for her work she has done, the handshake Queen of Queen. I think that's a honor for all of us. Cheers to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Proud that she did it.
Thank you.
I have a question for Dr. Sujeta ma'am. When you have assigned a work to your delegate in your team and if not done as expected or as you have expected or according to your expectation, how will you handle this situation?
I think Reshma, you know how I handle.
I know it.
I should stress here that no leader is perfect. So I tend to lose my cool, which is a well-known fact. But the key thing is not to keep those grudges, as told by Colonel Deshpande. So your team members should know that even though this particular doctor or leader shouts at me, it's not out of personal bias, it's for that particular situation. And then you teach them, that's how everybody learns. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Sucheta. I am not keeping well. I had 103 temperature yesterday. I had a urinary tract infection on the tablets, but because it was my baby, I said I have to come. So a little slurred speech is there. Sorry for that. Thanks, Sucheta. You've done a wonderful job. I have been practicing for the last 34 years. I've seen her evolve into a true leader and in a very short frame of time. What Colonel Deshpande sir just said. So fantastic. You have got coaching from one of the best leaders that we have in-house. Thanks, Santosh and Colonel Bharucha, for being with us.
I would like to.
Yeah, we would like to felicitate each one of them.
I would like to ask Dr. Taswala sir to felicitate Dr. Sucheta ma'am, Dr. Bharucha sir, and Dr. Bhede sir.
After that stimulating session, now I would like to call upon Dr. Tejaswini ma'am to conduct an interview with Colonel Madan Deshpande sir, who has been the epitome of leadership for us. Over to you. This session will be chaired by Dr. Martin sir and Dr. Rajesh sir. I'll call upon guys.
Sir, your turn. Okay, sir.
Sir, actually to make chairman.
This session has been designed by Dr. Tejaswini Valimbe, specifically keeping in mind Colonel Deshpande and Dr. Udayan Dikshit. And it's going to be a really interesting session for you people. Keep an eye the way it is. Whenever you feel there are some questions at the end of it, you can ask definitely.
Mic test करूंगी.
Good morning. I welcome you all to this Pulse of Wisdom session. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Colonel Dr. Madan Deshpande sir. Colonel Dr. Madan Deshpande, BSM, is presently Chief Medical Director of PBMS HV Desai Eye Hospital, Pune. It is a high volume, high quality, comprehensive eye care hospital with two other satellite centers at Mathur. He completed his graduation and MS ophthalmology in 1972. He has been in Indian Army from 1964 to 1997. He was actively involved in both 1965 and 71 Indo-Pak wars at the forefront with the infantry. Post-retirement, he was HOD of ophthalmology at Bharati University and HV Desai Hospital. He is a founder, architect, and survey server of HV Desai Hospital. Several awards are on his name. To name a few: Vishishta Seva Medal by President of India in 1992, Vishwamata Foundation in 2006, Outstanding Service in Prevention of Blindness Award, Best Teacher Award, Lifetime Achievement Awards, Smita Award Ovation Awards, and many others. List is unending. He is a true leader. He has done capacity building, strategic planning, and quality review of 32 partner hospitals across the country. He was president of Vision 2020. He is a postgraduate teacher and examiner to various universities since last 35 years. Sir was my examiner doing DNB examination. He was examiner for PhD at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Dr. Rajendra Prasad Center for Ophthalmic Sciences. He has been working for Agrihotra for healing the atmosphere and equilibrium of mind. But amongst all this, his introduction as Guru is most important. He is respectable, committed, passionate, and loving teacher. This Sanskrit shloka describes him perfectly. Vidvatvam Dakshata Shilam Sankrapti Tanushilanam Shikshadasya Gunaha Saptam Sachet Prasannata. It means what? Vidvatvam, scholar, Dakshata, alert and expert, humility, generosity, always ready to give knowledge, wisdom, engulfed in updating knowledge, energetic, and happiness are the virtues of Guru. Sir is a great Guru with all these virtues.
Thank you, sir, for agreeing to this conversation. Sir, my first question to you is, it is said that great buildings cannot be built without strong foundation. So for our future leaders in ophthalmology, what will be your advice to make a strong base?
At the outset, Tejaswini, I am grateful to you for kind words you used. And now I am no more a Chief Medical Director of HLS Hospital. I stepped down. I am advisor to HLS Hospital.
I think you can.
Mic on.
YouTube पर सुधा clear है.
Sir,
You take this mic.
sir, तो mic.
Camera ला attach होतो.
So Tejaswini,
Here, how there? In addition, you give him one. Open browser and let him have the other one. It is not audible at all, even in the hall. तर तुमच्या हातातलं माईक टेस्ट करा.
Hello.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Audible?
Yes, sir.
So at the outset, again, I repeat, I am grateful to Tejaswini for kind words he used. And now just little correction, I am advisor to HLSI now. I am no more a Chief Medical Director. Dr. Rahul is Chief Medical Director now, supported by Sucheta and Kuldeep. Now regarding the question you asked, you definitely for anything you need a firm base foundation, otherwise it cannot be anything. So you have to work hard. How much time, how long, what quality is a sort of a moot question to ask. But leadership is a process that you are born with it. I don't say that you are born as a leader, but you are born with the faculties of the leadership that develop in your childhood when you play with your colleagues in the school, how you deal with them, how you sort of deal with situations, because whole life is a sort of a full of situations you have to deal. That flourishes when you go to medical college, because compositely you stay there for a long time. With the same people, same set of teachers, same set of situations, different type challenges you face. So that goes on happening, and the whatever sort of a background training and breeding, I would like to, if I'm allowed to use the word breeding, that is a value system you born and you inculcated by your parents, your teachers, your sort of I would say friends also, because they contribute quite a lot. That makes you into leader. So it's very important that you need to expose yourself consciously, unconsciously to situations, because you are a social animal and you have to be social. And what do you mean by social? I feel the simple definition is I am born to help others. You have that in mind, automatically you go on trying to help people. And when you want to help people, you would like to do better job. How you must try to do better it. And when you have that in mind, I want to be better than many others, you automatically do it. A simple sort of. And as for myself is concerned, I would call myself very fortunate, because I studied in a very great school, as a Hyderabad Vivek Pardhani High School. As a private school, they used to call it Bhattaji Shala. But their school produced maximum first classes in the Hyderabad, that region. That time to get a first class was difficult. But major contribution came from my school. And there we had that value system inculcated in us right from the beginning. Then I went to a region which is a backward region, so-called Marathwada, where the ample opportunities were there. Whenever things are backward, you should not call them backward, because you call them as a upward, like Suchita just now said, strength and weaknesses, So you have it, when you have weaknesses, opportunities there, you convert them into strengths. So a lot of these opportunities came to me, and then I had that in me. I was we acted in cultural sort of a thing. We represented a youth festival, went to this thing, then I was the president of college union. All those things happened. And that helped me. Then I joined army after my medical college, and I thought that I was involved and all that's good for a thing, nice. But then I found that I was not doing medical job. Many times I was doing quartermaster job supply. I'm signing out 100 signatures, issue and all. And a stage came in life when I saw somebody suturing a sort of a wound. I felt bad. Can I do this? What I learned in my life, I'm not practicing. I thought I must do sort of a specialty. Left army, did my specialty again, went back to army. Why I said this interim part? This helped me. What I thought was walking in a snowbound area. I did a commando course. I did so many things, this thing I was a paratrooper. I thought this all has nothing to do with my profession. But when I practice it, now as a HLSI hospital, in the building of HLS hospital, all these things came to my the great help, because that taught me to build my capacity. That taught me to have patience. That kept me endurance. So in life, whatever you do, you are learning things. Unconsciously, you are gaining your strengths. So all this army life has made me what I am today. I'm grateful to that sort of you can call it a misery, you can call it a strain, you can call it a sort of a, but today they are enjoyment and strength. So there's my foundation. And good people I had around me, I learned from them. I'm grateful to that. Whenever something, because my background was a Warkari background in my house. So that sort of thing was in mind. So whichever somebody was something good he talked, it remains somewhere in the mind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So consider all situations as opportunity to learn something. That was a lesson. So my second question is, you have been a teacher for a long time. So do you think there is a need for improvement in postgraduate training in India? And what will be your advice to the teachers and students attending this session?
I think very good question you asked. I think there's a question, burning question today. Despite we have made a lot of development and progress in the specialty, because of the system what we undergone and system what we gave to the others, a lot of gaps are there. And there has to be a sort of a paradigm shift in training of residents. Many people feel that whatever time they spend in an organization, many people they feel that they are not well trained. They're not fit to practice outside what they learn. They need to again undergo sort of a fellowship program, residency program, some sort of practice, and then they come out. Then what is the aim? I would feel that, first of all, we have to first find out what definite outcome we'd like to have in a postgraduate, MS, MD, whatever you call it, or diploma. We should have definite outcome. Regarding proficiency, skills, it should be repeatable, constant, and should be able to use to the society. That is, we have defined skills that you should be able to do this, able to diagnose this, but then practice is not happening. Majority we find that students come and go after their passing, whatever either MS or DMS, whatever it is, they are not capable, or majority of them. I don't say 100%. Majority they would like to have some sort of even for general practice they need training. So there has to be a definite outcome oriented sort of a course. Secondly, why? Because there's so much crammed up. They want to teach them everything, repeat so many other things which already they have done. So there has to be a paradigm shift in curriculum. They should have applied knowledge. They need not, because memory is not a sort of a computer. They go on, supercomputer, go on having, and then ask questions about a small thing to know. Because if he doesn't know, then failing. That should not be the system. Give him with a if you have a definite outcome, what should be essentially known should be taught to them. Rest should be like a non-detailed used to have in our childhood. They should have knowledge of it, need not be sort of reproducible. So there has to be sort of, then secondly, great gap in skills. many institutions do not have enough patients to even operate for the faculty, they are for the students. And such institutions have been given opportunity to train students. They don't learn skills, either diagnostics, not because some of the private institutions, when I found that when a person had gone and done, no, they don't see a case. The case discussion happens on a virtual. So in Corona period, when virtual things were there, there's no difference. So there are no opportunity to see cases. So we have, well, giving accreditation to the institutions, one should ensure that there are enough patients. How much enough should be there to see the patient? Because faculty is learning, trying to improve, develop. Students want to learn. So for skill development, there has to be where to go. Secondly, most important thing, I would say, what is hindrance, what happens, that equipment. There's no replacement of the equipment. What happens, our tendency for the students is to give them third-rate equipment. They spoil it. Surgery, if you give them the third-rate microscope, they would like to do that. Of course, they go, of course, or whatever it is, they don't get first-rate equipment. So there has to be a budget for teaching, give them the best equipment to diagnose, to operate. Then only we are going to make good students, good residents. So let us find out what is the cost of teaching a student. As a vis-a-vis the fees that is paid. Let somebody bear that expense. If government doesn't want to bear, let the student bear it. I believe it goes more than 1 crore, more than that. Because you need to have good equipment, you need to have good instruments, you need to have good diagnostics. Then only they will learn. However, that most worst thing that happens is the NGO hospital. NGO, because the fellow who is in a government hospital, the fees is paid, he gets a stipend from the government. NGO hospitals, we have best of the equipment, we have the best of the number of surgeons, we give more, teaching is better, and yet we pay the stipend also. So the cost of the teaching is going high. They will come when NGOs will shirk, this is possible. I'll tell you my own example. I am authorized to have 12 postgraduates per year. But I cannot give 80,000 rupees per student. From where do I get it? I'm not a profit earner. So we have to think, government has to think that if they want a particular faculty, if they want a particular sort of, because communities or people will tell us how much need per year is the ophthalmologist. That much only you should produce, and they should train properly. There are a lot of things have been thought of. It should not be very superficial while teaching. So first thing I would say to summarize, we should be budgeted, find out the cost of teaching, give them the best training, have strict accreditations, and I would call it you should audit. Audit should not be once in 3 years you go and see, oh, everything is fine, you are fit to teach people. No, teaching should be a very, very pious thing should be. That's it. But product comes out should be very good, excellent. So we have to think in a most majority way, and this has to be done ad hoc. It will not come like that. You will find there are big gaps, nobody is going to accept it. So it will require advocacy at all levels, from medical college, government, from NGOs, from Vision 2020, and they will come, I'm sure, that will be able to teach nicely.
Thank you, sir. So HDSI Hospital has made advanced eye care affordable to a common man, and you are the backbone of the institute. So what is the success formula of HDSI?
Good question. Again, I will go back to my sort of a background. I come from village, then Marathwada, and we have seen poverty, we have experienced poverty in our life. So basic thing is in my mind was people need help. With that concept, we give an opportunity came, when I was about to retire from army, I used to do camps in Naples. And army, they never did any camp, they never knew how to do it, they did not allow it. So I had to sort of go and constitute to my commandant and take permission for doing camps. Say, why the hell do you want to camp? He said. Others are doing it. I said, I'm also a medical college, I have to train my students, and for that camps are necessary. He said, reduce them, he said, why do you need no students? But anyway, then I remember those days when I was posted to FMC. I told him, sir, I'm going to hold a camp. If the camp fails, you can punish me, hold me court martial. If it's successful, you're in punishment. And I left. That requires sort of a guts to talk that. I had that. And I remember so some of the things, I think Barucha may not be there, that, we were there. We went to Pabad and did a camp in a Dharamshala. We operated 20 cases. Went on then doing our camps and everything. That's how we started. So that's how in mind when I retired, I had options to do so many things, Mr. Panda called me, he was a blind person, had a passion for having, he wanted to prevent blindness, being a blind person. And he was doing something in, there's a blind woman's hostel in Dairy. She had a small operation theater and they were doing it. So he called me, he said, one day, because we were doing camp, I met him in collector's office. So he said, doctor, I want you to visit my hospital. I was about to retire. Then I went and I saw the 2 rooms he was calling a hospital. With the confidence he had told me, visit, I would like to see my hospital. So I went there, like 2 rooms, 1 operation theater and 1 OPD, having just a street lamp and a rattle street lamp and some refraction. I didn't say anything to him, but I thought this is not a place for me to work. I joined some college, 6 days I left. I joined another college and then went for exam because they wanted some accreditation, so they wanted a person, so I went to Belgaum. And so when the inspector came, he said, Colonel, what are you doing here? I said, I'm coming today to that for your accreditation. After accreditation, I'm going to leave. And left. I came back. Again, Panda called me. He said, you do me 1,000 cases. I'll not cut the story short. So what basically the passion was there. And we started. We started doing cases, 3 cases, camps, and good results. And then slowly, gradually, we built a team. Now, while building a team, naturally, we had a lot of my students came back. And others also we joined some of them. So then when they came, they were all, I would call it a Lagan team. You see the Lagan picture, So they were all just passed, had some experience and no experience. And then what happened? They developed, we sent them for training. And some of them, I remember when an incident when that girl came to me and said, sir, I'm getting married. I know I'm about to get married, or I'm trying to get married. And the father also came, sir, I'll pay the school. What will happen? I say, if she gets married, get married, I don't mind. At least let her learn because that skills she can use somewhere else. I don't want that she should come back to me. But if she comes back, I welcome. Like that, they went, came back. So we have to show that confidence in them. So, and because we knew people, so they could easily sort of get admissions for postgraduates and all. So like they learned, all my students, they came as MBBS, they said as MS, and then they learned, some of them came DMS, they did DNB, and like that, a team was built. The reason for this was they had a commitment for organization. Because they became a specialist with organization, so they had a commitment. And there is no interference in the critical work. We never said to do this way, that way. As sort of a leader, we never interfere, they encourage. And whatever means they wanted, we tried to convince the sort of trustees to have it. Like that, this whole thing came. The aspirations of the young people were fulfilled, but not as aspirations of young people, we fulfilled as a need of the society that is required. There's a need for ROP, we came out. There's a need for doing retina, we came out. Like that, and automatically it also fulfilled the aspirations of young people. That's why they stayed. Otherwise, nobody would have stayed here. Nothing. Then building came, we grew, but it was not a plan made in 1997 when I joined them. That that someday we'll go. We had some design in mind. हमें आगे बढ़ना है. हम हो गए कामयाब, दिमाग में था, that we did. And this not in this the whole credit is, I would say, 1% to me, 99% to my team.
Great teamwork and the main behind the success.
What is the style here?
Yeah. So tell us one story from your life journey which you want to share with
Yeah, all the future leaders in ophthalmology. Any story, any short story from your life journey.
There are many.
It will be inspirational and motivational.
There are many challenges you come across, when you sort of lead certain things or manage certain things, live life. So you have to deal with the situations very nicely. I tell you one situation. We have one hospital in periphery, and there it so happened that one person, was a muscle man and strong. He went there and tried to, hit people and beat them. Everybody was scared. The manager rang me out somewhere in Bangalore that time or got some workshop. So he rang me up. So I said, they had cornered me and tried to. So I said, then give to me. They give the point to do. Talk to him. I said, yeah, you have a problem. You rang me up. You're like a son to me. Why you're creating problem? Then I went to him. I went alone. I said, I don't. Then I went to that place. Again, morning, I just walked to his house. I said, I don't want anybody to come to me. They're all scared. I said, nothing left. I said, I've been in army. When Pakistanis could not kill me, what buddy in this world? So I went alone. I just very nicely, I just said, I would have a cup of tea. Sat with them and talked. That fellow came, that young fellow. Young fellow always, they're Muslim hota hai. So I जोर से मारा अपनी. बोला बेवकूफ बच्चा है तू मेरा. You could have rang me. Why did you create all this nonsense? Imagine you could have hit me back or whatever, no more here, coming back at the yeah. But then with that whole compassion, you would deal the situation. That was very nice. So whenever there is a problem, don't react the same manner. And you are no more a leader. You have to be cool, give compassion, give warmth. I think people can be sort of a sort of. There are so many things, so many things in life you can have this open. There are situations like complications and all, like this Shashi told, that's what we say, do that. People are bound to make complications, and you can't kill them, I said, okay, do it, we'll manage. I'll never done. I'll tell you one incident, Shashi is there. I was in Delhi, operating in army, this thing, and there's a long list for me. She had come on temporary duty. So there was a case of melanoma, so we knew which had to be done. So I told Shashi, I'll both lamba list, I'll take the time, and you do that. She said, okay, then quietly she did on the other table, and she went away. I finished my list, I was staying alone in the mess, went back to the mess, and immediately I remembered, yeah, Shashi, I told Shashi to operate. I hope she has not done the wrong act. That thought came to my mind. Believe me, those days were not days of mobile. I could not trace her. She had gone, she was sick somewhere in Delhi, not in the mess. I went to ward, and those days, they used to do mutilation under the GA, Patient को मैं पूछा how much this is definitely she has done it wrong. I must have cursed her in mind 10 times. Then I helpless, I couldn't do anything. Next day morning, when she came, I asked her, Shashi, I hope you have done right hand. He said, sir, you taught me that we had a system that in squint and the unification, person who is to operate is to write on a case sheet. Left eye, right eye together. And sign it. So I taught them. She said, I saw what you have written, sir. I was so happy. The other incidents I would like to tell, that since this thing came, we are in AFMC, lot of rushes to be there. Army people, army boys and all. So I has to be very busy in my own this thing has to work. So they asked all. One day I came out of my room at about 1 o'clock and found nobody was there. A lot of patients were there. He said, "Kahan gaye? Sab log police sahab khana khane chale." Then we had a seminar in the afternoon. I called them. I said, "There's so many patients waiting. You have nobody business to go for food. You could have gone after 15 minutes. What's the problem?" And the next time I see somebody doing that, I'm the last person to talk it. I told that I forgot. After 10 years, I went to Vizag, and the Tarun was there. So he said, "Sir, why don't you come for a lunch?" So I went to him, in the office, met him. He received me and myself in front. And then he took me to his house, dropped me there. He said, "I got some work, I'll come back." Then he came back after half an hour. He said, then told Pandya, "Sir, I taught us when the patients, they finish them and have a lunch. I'm practicing that since long. Cannot be may not be possible for everybody, but at least some sort of a gratefulness for your patients. You can't, you're like, patient is waiting, you keep on talking to somebody, that is not done. So you have to have respect for your patient. That sort of a thing we should teach them. That's what we are taught to our students, most in AFMC also here. HSI, AFMC. We want that you have to have respect for the patient. These are some stories. I would like them to carry forward that you have no business to talk ill to patient. Hey Matare, hey Matara. No. You are existing because they are there. If there are no patients, you have no existence. So you have no business to talk in an ill tone to anybody. Because of them, you are there. So again, small thing during we had one sort of a meeting. I think that time some VIP had come and a lot of satkars had done, like we have satkars here. So a lot of satkars and bouquets are given. So last I got up and I said, we have forgotten one VIP to be felicitated. I would like to felicitate VIP. Everybody thought to go ahead. So there's a patient capacity, I called him and I gave him a bouquet. I said, because of you, we are here. That's why I would like to felicitate you. So this should be the, in mind, he is important than you. Keep that in mind. There are no complications, there are no problems, there will be no litigations even. You have to, you have to give them respect. A lot of people come with agitation. So we are seeing so many people come with that agitation after talking. They're cool. I one more instance, like you told me, they're important. One fellow had a problem. He referred to a doctor. Operation done, and there's this little displacement of the iron. All that required was a little diving. So he's in agitated. Somebody called me out. I came, and he said because he's waiting my signature so that he can go for the certificate. So I said I signed without seeing. He was going. I said, sir, can I allow me to read what is written there? Because I just because of you waiting, I signed. He said, you can read. Okay. And he said, can I see your patient? He said, you can see. So I saw. I said, it's a very minor complication, and it should not have happened. We apologize for that, and I'll get to correct it from anywhere you like. I'll bear the expense. They said, no, you get it done here. I said, fine. Next day he came and thanked. So let us not be sort of, moments complex happens, we think of so many unnecessary things, go into sort of a shell. So try to explain them, try to sort of deal with them. There are pages where nothing happens, works, fine, accept it. But 99% you will feel that people after all have a human thing in their mind, you can reach them.
Every experience, every story from your life journey, there are a lot of things to learn. So courage, in first story, what we learned is that courage to deal with the situation, and every situation should be dealt with a different way. And passion and all, it's every experience we will learn a lot of things. So one more question is, when we discuss about the success of a person, we discuss about his intelligent, like intelligent quotient, emotional quotient, and nowadays the spiritual quotient also. And we know you are doing Agnihotra and everything. So do you think that spirituality helps to become a better person, and also it will help to become a better professional?
I think Dr. Deshwari, you asked me a very good, important question for everybody, not me. Spirituality to me, the simple definition I think, is thinking beyond yourself. That is spirituality. Spirituality doesn't mean that it's sort of doing a particular code of a ritual and you feel that you want to. That becomes, that same IQ is basically people thought people with high IQ are good people. They found they're selfish. So doing something for your own ritual, that is selfishness. I become more and more selfish. My demands which are never finished. So then they said they should have compassion, an EQ. So doctor must have compassion. But with compassion also and this thing, you again are revolving in the same sort of thing. So spiritual quotient is a must to become a good leader. Unless you have spiritual quotient, it gives you three things. One, it gives you a firm anchor. many times we find we fail not to emerge as a leader because we don't have. They're scared of self, they're scared of authorities, they're scared of situation, they're scared of future. So that anchor gives you so firm anchor. And luckily, in sort of, we are all mostly Marathi speaking people, there are a lot of states. And they have said that they always talked about, they're in very situations, like very bad situation, middle class situations, but still they're much, much higher because that is firm anchor. So spirituality gives you firm anchor. Number two, it gives a direction in life. Even ophthalmologists, everybody needs a direction. When you want to lead as a leader, we're talking today, you need a direction in life. So that firm direction it gives you. And spirituality, the other piece, thing is, whenever you do certain things, you always think of others. What benefit, like she talked, Sucheta said, you have to benefit people as leader. So whenever you plan something, you are always planned for the others. So I think it's essential that most of us should have a spiritual thread fabric in us. But one precaution is, by choosing that fabric, there are two different things. Religion and spirituality are two different things. Religion can be A, B, C, D, anything you follow, that is different. But spirituality is separate from religion. And you want to choose a spirituality, choose one which is not a biased one. What happened initially, and if you want to talk about, as far as we are concerned, or when the whole world is concerned, the ancient book of spirituality is Vedas. Vedas do not talk about, they do not belong to any religion as such. With means knowledge, like Vidwan we call it. So this is a knowledge. And that knowledge, you have some sort of a principles, you adopt that, and then should not only to recite, you should be adopt. This is what they say, like Gnaneshwari, we are in Pune, Tamil Gnaneshwari, it is said that they are full of knowledge, Bhagavad Gita, translated in Marathi. But reading Gnaneshwari would not yield anything. Even if you sit down and do Parayan of 7 days, but ekatari govi anubhava. If you have that experience of knowledge, you get, like I said, intuitive intelligence. You become suddenly enlightened. And for that you should live. For that you should look after. But look out, I must have that sort of a light. And you get all of you, wherever tradition you get it. The spirituality you should have. That saves you from many, many things. They say, Swalpa Alpasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahatu. You have a little bit of fabric of spirituality, it will save you from a lot of dangers. Give you lead a right path. And you will be doing better things, not for yourself, for others. That's what you want.
Thank you, sir. There one last question. How to deal with success and failure? Your formula. आपण जे म्हणतो की या शोभ्यात जाऊ नये अपयशाने कसू नये. तर बरेचदा ते छोटे छोटे आपल्या जसे पीसी रेंट झाला तरी तो दिवसभर डिस्टर्ब होतो किंवा मोठे फेल्युअर्स येतात. So how to deal with this such disappointments in life?
This is I think we have, she has asked me, we immediately have to spirituality this question. Every sort of a failure, they say seed has to die to germinate. They say a seed, any seed, it gets buried into the earth, gets destroyed, to produce a sort of a new life. Similarly, any failure, we should look as if one thing should not have failure. But if it all happens consciously and unconsciously, we should think that how can I learn from it? Peruse, learn, think, why it happened. You should not repeat the same mistake again. That is sensibility. So we should not get daunted by this other failure. Everybody has failures. I don't think a single person who has not had a failure in life. Everybody has failure. But how you deal with it successfully is more important. So that's how similarly, you also got accolades, like people praise you, people say you're good, you're big. But are you really big? Your mind knows. You're not. So always ask question to your mind. What people are telling, are you that? at least try to live up to that particular. So that way, the analysis of your mind, that must be there, because otherwise what happens is sort of a tyrannical, you become a boss. You become a thing that, you don't give to anybody. So you should always analyze, if somebody tells me, am I good, was I really good or was I selfish? But you should not degenerate into sort of a, rationally you think it for small, if you forget about it. So basically, these are opportunities people are given you to help them. Be thankful to them. Nobody's great. Nobody's sort of a big person. Whatever we call that fellow, I suppose I can call me a leader. I'm not a leader. I got an opportunity to sit there. For that, I should be grateful for the team, grateful for the management. Because I must have had failures also, but that failure, my team successfully took it and they said, sir, you're good. Sometimes they came to me and they said that this is not a good, so I accepted it. So you should have it ears open, because you have to learn, like situational leadership, what she said was that. Even if you are sitting on a chair as a leader and somebody comes to you and tells you, sir, this what was not good, wrong, accept it. I've been doing it, she knows it. I taught them something wrong, she came to me with a book. I said, yes, fine, thank you. Sujata knows it, many times they have come to me and told me, sir, this is not be good, what you thought. I had withdrawn that sort of a order. So you should not get disturbed, like it's not a big Bhagavad Gita thing, Nama, Namu, Jaya, Jaya. So what you have to do is, whenever situations are there, accept it that you are wrong. People don't call you a useless leader or foolish. It requires a great guts to accept. And don't get paranoid, but you are a big person sitting on chair is an opportunity. It can be anytime removed, it can be anytime kicked out. So feel that this is an opportunity, let me do the best of it.
Thank you very much, sir. Your words of wisdom will definitely help everyone to become a better person, better doctor also.
I was a little scared because I thought this is going to take a badla on me. Shit, I proposed it. But thank you, you're really good example. Better than me.
Let's have a view of chairpersons also, what are the minutes of what they have by the time you play. Dr. Uday Dixit's interview. It's a recorded interview, it's going to be. Then?
I think it's a wonderful idea of LDP program of Maharashtra Technological Society. The idea about this in education. And our education student, they just studying about coding. Wonderful idea. After that, we talk about information. I think looking back to a journey and the interview, I think it is a fantastic experience. The person who had the background of Marathwada, that is the rural background, the person who worked in the army, could have enjoyed leisure life, wonderful life afterwards, but had that passion of working for poor, operating for poor, having the idea of doing art camps for these blind people, and doing that work in the remote peripheral place of Pune, that is Mumbai. I think it was the mission what you started. It was a dream. It is very wonderful dream, but then it was very difficult dream. What you had in your mind, because patients are traveling kilometers together to reaching the HSI hospital. And in today's era, most of the international figures, national figures, they have visited HSI hospital, and it is the hospital which is recognized internationally. And so this is a wonderful journey. And you are not retired from this place. You are not executive, past executive director. You are still.
Yes, one thing I would like to tell. I was when I was about to leave army, Dr. V from Venkateswamy from Madurai wanted me to join them. I went, he showed me on my chair, showed me around. I then decided that I will join, no problem. That was going through, about to start, so I moved with the Dr. V and others to pursue invitations. And somehow when I went home, came back, my wife could be whole life will be roaming around. Now you want to go and settle in Madurai. How about marrying your daughter and son and all? So I chickened out. I joined the HSI, we developed HSI. Then last, I met Dr. B was, he was not well. I got a workshop in Madurai. I told Dr. Nasher, all are very close to me like that, you know. So I told him I want to meet Dr. V. He said, no, doctor, no, he's not there. And let him take a little rest. So I said, fine. Evening, got a frantic call from Dr. Nasher that Dr. V wants to see him. If not, he'll come to your room. I said, no, I'll come there. I went to him. We talked, he blessed. He came twice here after, you know, I had to guy. He came twice and then he blessed and all. He said, and when I was going, I was tying my shoelaces. He said, Colonel, you can still bend. I said, that is the philosophy of my life. I did a mazdoor. I did a mazdoor. I did a mazdoor. No, you have to bend in life. Unless you bend, you can't be straight. Because as a paratrooper, and Indian paratrooper, what they taught me of this popular saying, they say, there's only profession in the world where you have to come down to go up in life. So always try to bend. Always try modest. Thank you.
Couple of lines.
You have added us at Ophthalmological Society, you are president of Maharashtra Ophthalmological Society, even at ECOI, you have led the country. And one more thing, being leader at HVS Hospital, the mission of the leader is to create the followers and future leaders. I think under Dr. Madan Deshpande, there were a team of Dr. Rahul Deshpande, Sujita and Pujit. And even if you are saying that you are retired, or you are retirement, there are people who are looking after this particular institute afterwards also. And that is a great achievement by the leader like Madan Deshpande. Thanks.
Okay, sir.
Colonel Deshpande sir was my MS guide, and I am so thankful to MOS that you gave me this opportunity to sit when the icon is being asked questions. The only thing I would like to say is I am so happy that Colonel Deshpande sir has not changed from the time when he was my guide, that is way back in 89, 90. So that is a long time. And it is so happy to see you, sir. The amount of
your hesitation,
Anyway, sir has told you to tell you about my dissertation. Like when I went with my dissertation to Colonel Deshpande sir, he asked me one question: are you happy with your dissertation? So he didn't even look at my dissertation. I told him, sir, I have done whatever is possible. I think this is the best that I can do. And he said, then I will sign. He just didn't even bother to look at my dissertation. That was the amount of confidence that he had in me, and I think that is the amount of confidence that a leader should have in people under them, work for them or helping them. So I think that is one thing. And the second thing that I'm most happy to see is the amount of focus. He would, as Parathe sir said, he would very well have retired and sat at home, but even today he is not retired. He's still an advisor to HPDSI. I think this is a lot of learning for all of us that we can. They always say good men never retire; they always fade away. So I think that is, the most important thing, and I'm extremely thankful to MOS that they gave me this opportunity to be present. Thank you.
On behalf of Mentee, Deshpande sir or the institution by himself. Now I request Colonel Deshpande sir to felicitate ma'am and Dr. Parathe sir.
Background. I think Sushita, you can join. In making me, many Shashi. They are the people who have seen worst of me and best of me. So they made me. And they have made me. But I am today. Samir also बड़े पे भी सभी है मेरा जो सभी लोग हैं आजा 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 बैठ जाओ ये करिए
I photo
whatever I am today, I am because of my students and wherever they, you know, all they have taught me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, बाकी लोगों ने तेजस्विनी go and sir. Each one. Chal, yeah. And a game.
Yes, I don't do that.
Just want to show I can still bend.
Yeah. Sure. Done? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Udayan Dixit was because of his busy with other programs, so I have recorded his interview. So we will listen to his interview now. Welcome to this Pulse of Wisdom session. It is my honor to welcome Dr. Udayan Dixit sir on this stage. A humble, respectable, and successful clinician from Pune. Vidya Vinayana Shodhase. Dixit sir graduated in 1980 from BJ Medical College, Pune. He passed MS in ophthalmology with flying colors. He was a recipient of gold medal. He received his DNP degree in 1986. After passing lab examination in 1984, he received permanent license to practice in United Kingdom. He has done overseas training in several hospitals in United Kingdom, Boston, USA, and Philadelphia. He was on the editorial board of Journal of Clinical Ophthalmology and Research. Several research papers are on his name. His work and research on diabetic retinopathy is remarkable. He has a number of awards to his credit. To name a few: Dr. Y.K.C. Pandit Award, Oration Award at Deccan Ophthalmological Society, Goa Ophthalmological Society, Research Society, BJMC Pune, and Best Paper Prize at All India Ophthalmic Society. He is not just a sound clinician, but also an effective social worker who has contributed to the welfare of the masses. He has been actively involved in 3 screening camps in Arunachal Pradesh. He is working in remote villages. It is a wonderful thing that he is working twice a year in Arunachal Pradesh, and that he is not taking any help from government and NGOs. He worked as a chairman scientific committee, Maharashtra Ophthalmic Society in 2007. He is a multifaceted personality. Beyond his role as a clinician and academician, he is a sports person too. He has played in tennis tournaments with former India tennis captain Nandan Pal. He has also played a main role in the famous national award-winning Marathi movie based on Satkekar brothers. And last but not the least, he is fortunate to have a strong support in his every work throughout his life journey from his wife, Mrs. Naina Dixit. Thank you, sir, for agreeing to this conversation.
Thank you very much, Tejaswini. I'm extremely grateful for this wonderful introduction. Thank you very much.
Sir, you got an opportunity to work in United Kingdom as well as in Pune, India. Every coin has two sides, few positive aspects and few negative aspects. In your view, which positive aspects Indian doctors should learn or adapt from UK doctors?
I have been fortunate, Tejaswini, to work in United Kingdom for the last 36 or 37 years, though intermittently, so I have led a kind of dual life. And it is very true, as you said, that every coin has two sides. So there are some good points to be taken from United Kingdom, and there is a flip side to it as well. If I decide and think about what are the good points in UK doctors, I would rather say that we have to take clues from the system of medicine in UK and not only the doctors. The system of medical care in UK, as we all know, is NHS or National Health Service. One of the hallmarks of National Health Service is uniformity of medical care. By that I mean that if we see private hospital setups in corporate cities in our country, they are excellent at par with United Kingdom, and on many occasions we are even better than them. It's a thing of pride for all of us. But if we go down from metropolitan cities to other cities, towns and villages, the quality of medical care can go down, and ultimately many parts of the country have no medical care at all. But in United Kingdom, right from London, the capital, to the smallest of town, the medical care is very uniform. That is about NHS. If we see the General Medical Council or the GMC, it has certain rules and regulations by which a doctor has to abide. Almost all the doctors, including ophthalmologists, follow Royal College guidelines. So they strictly follow the guidelines written down, and because of that, they practice evidence-based medicine and, very importantly, protocol-driven treatment. So Dr. A, Dr. B, and Dr. C will tell the same investigation to the patient, the same kind of treatment. Of course, there are patients in whom exceptions have to be made. We have to cater to individual patient on a custom basis, but mostly this protocol-driven treatment is followed. That's a very strong aspect of the system of medical care. Another point is that throughout your medical practice or your career, you have to undergo clinical audit. Your work is assessed. You also have to undergo what is called as revalidation once in a few years, in which a senior doctor from your own department or the administrative head of your hospital will assess you. But very importantly, almost 50 patients give their confidential report about you, about your efficiency, about your behavior. Are there any shortcomings or are there any bad qualities in your behavior? And if anything goes against you, your registration is at least temporarily suspended. So everybody has to abide the rules, stay inside the rules and work. That gives you a lot of discipline. Every patient is seen exactly as a drill. You may see a patient just for presbyopic correction, but the college guidelines teach you that whatever may be the complaint, the patient must undergo a full drill of examination so that you don't miss anything. You can catch diseases early. So these are some very plus points. To this, I must add that there is a flip side or a negative side to the medical care. There are long waiting lists, sometimes a few months or even a year for surgeries like cataract and joint replacement. Another thing is very important from the patient's point of view. The patients never pay the doctor directly. Money is one situation where there can be a bit of friction between patients and the doctor. If you advise any investigations or any treatment, the patient may feel, is it really necessary or is the doctor trying to fleece you? That situation doesn't arise because everything is free under NHS. But it is extremely difficult for a patient to contact a consultant directly. But we Indians are very easily approachable. Patients can pick up the telephone and contact us in our clinic and in certain situations even at our residence. That is totally lacking in England. We as Indian doctors or as Indian individuals, we always have tremendous respect for our elderly. This kind of respect is inculcated in us. It is not artificial. All Indian doctors are like that. We show a lot of empathy towards our patients. So I feel if this disciplinary attitude of United Kingdom is combined with the empathy of Indian doctors, it can be amalgamated into a situation where you can be an excellent doctor. So taking good points from the United Kingdom, retaining our values of humanity, I think we can be excellent doctors in India as well.
Of course, there is a necessity for improvement in a system to improve the quality of the patients.
Absolutely, and in that, as I mentioned the names, the government, the regulations, regulatory bodies like General Medical Council or let's say Medical Council of India, they play a large role so that people have to follow rules, stay in the rules. We must learn to follow guidelines which are given to us, say for example, All India Ophthalmological Society, and we must practice in that parameter so that our quality of practice will always remain good.
So this is the era of social media and advertising. And every other day we come across some advertisements from doctors or health professionals. We also know that the news which reaches us through print media or social media, many times it is a fake news or paid news. It's an open secret now. So should should we advertise, and what ethics or principle we should follow before advertising?
I feel that advertisement actually falls in the domain of business. Advertisement is a part and parcel of business. I agree that we are slowly shifting to a modality of treatment or management, which is linking or which has some inclinations towards business as well. But we must remember that we are not doing business. If you advertise, then you will be in the same club as the business. On one hand, we say that things like CPA or Consumer Protection Act, doctors should not be included. We should not be called as business people. Patients are not consumers. But if you advertise, you are putting yourself in a situation where you will be equated with businesses. So you can't have both the things. So advertisement is of course not good at all. But times change. Whatever our values were in the past, we must learn to evolve. And that evolution is necessary for a doctor because we must pass on information to the patient. Everybody knows that today information is a big weapon. It's a huge power. So information must be disseminated amongst the patients. Imagine the plight of patients who live in small towns, who don't have access to doctors of all kinds or to media. There are so many new treatments available in ophthalmology, in rheumatology, where there are drugs which work like magic, and in many fields of medicine. But that information must reach the patient so that they can at least try to avail of those facilities. So information must be passed on. There is a very thin line between advertisement and information. But in order to give information but not advertise, we have to introspect. We have to put our own barriers. We have to remember that we are in a global profession. So giving information to the society is a very big duty, but it should not cross that thin line, as we call Lakshman Resha in Marathi, and go on the side of the advertisement. That is not really good. Even media, I always feel, particularly in the COVID era, media is a very powerful medium. They can influence the society like nobody else can. But I felt during COVID era that media is almost like a paramedical service. They can pass on so much of information about restrictions, about leniency, about vaccines, etc. So I really felt that media is like a paramedical service. So they should also keep some rules to themselves. They should also see to it that they don't pass on this fake news. I always say that to the media whenever there are interviews on television, that you have such big power. But power is a double-edged weapon. So don't misuse it or use it ruthlessly. Think how much significant power you have. And I would like to satisfy the ego by saying that you are a paramedical service. So think about that responsibility, that power that you have. And if they and the doctors both introspect, keep the rules and regulations, there is no need to advertise. Don't cross that thin line. But giving information is a need of the hour for which social media can be used certainly.
So every doctor should know his or her individual responsibility.
Yes.
So my third question is towards your own life. The ultimate goal of life is happiness and satisfaction. And according to our Indian tradition or Indian philosophy, several paths have been described, like karma, yoga, jnana marga, bhakti marga, path of devotion, action, knowledge, service. And you chose the path of Nishrama Seva, that is selfless service. So can you tell us about your social work in Arunachal Pradesh?
Tejaswini, I personally feel that in every individual's life, in doctor, but in other fields as well, there are phases in everybody's life. Somehow in the Indian psyche, it is impressed on us that earning money is some kind of a sin. If you're doing something to earn money, that's bad. I don't think that's the truth, or that's correct. In the early phase of life, everybody has to earn money. Everybody needs to earn money. You have to look after your family. You have to educate your children. You have to look after the health of your parents. Nothing comes for free. So for that, you must earn money, and there is nothing wrong in that. After a little while, you evolve into the second phase of life where actually you're working for your name. The name should not be spoiled. You want to attain a certain status in the society and you start working for that. Much later than that, a third phase comes in your life which is called self-realization. In that situation, when I'm working, even if I'm not paid a single penny, I'm not going to be patted on my back for doing some good work. Nobody's observing my work. But I must feel that if I'm doing something, it must be the best. That is self-realization. Doesn't matter if anybody realizes that or not. So that phase you must nurture very well. And then a phase comes when your responsibilities are over. Your kids are well settled, you have looked after your parents very well. But once these responsibilities are over, everybody must realize that it is time to give back. You must give back to the society. I was extremely fortunate that I was approached by an organization which told me that will you go to Arunachal Pradesh and work? Everybody wants to do something, but you don't know exactly what to do, where to do that work. So I actually consider that this is a godsend for me that somebody approached me and asked me to work in Arunachal Pradesh, which actually is a social work as well as patriotic work. The reason why it is patriotic, some of these states in the northeast, 4 or 5 of those famous 7 sisters which everybody visits, we know that there is a very powerful neighbor who's actually looking at these states in such a way that they consider that those states do not belong to India. It belongs to them. But I found in Arunachal Pradesh, and I was told is that people in Arunachal Pradesh still say Jai Hind, but they have been neglected. So it is our duty to reach out to them and tell them that we are your co-brothers. We care for you. You are one of us. We will protect you. We will help you. So when I got this opportunity to go to Arunachal Pradesh, it was no doubt social work. But you can do social work in 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers radius. Why go such long distances? But the reason is this little frill of patriotism which is attached to it. This is the way I know I'm very well aware that I'm a very small drop in the ocean to do this. But why not make a beginning? So I feel extremely nice when I go to these small villages along the border of China and Myanmar. Every time I go to different villages, I stay with families and I work. And I show to them that we care for you. So this phase of giving something to the society, if everybody decides to do it, it is really welcome. I know that there are some people who give back to the society and do charity from the first phase in life. I consider these people as saints, truly. But I am not a saint. I am an ordinary person. But at least after the first 3 phases are over, I think it is everybody's duty to give back to the society, to the nation if possible, so that your life will be extremely happy and you will have fulfillment in life.
Can you please tell us one small story from your life journey to the young ophthalmologists or young doctors?
It's always difficult to choose one story. Everybody has a lot of incidences and stories to tell. Some of them are very personal, some of them to do with your family, with your friends. I think I should tell about an incident which has to do with medicine and ophthalmology. And I think after listening to this story, doctors could get inspired. This story dates back about 7 or 8 years ago. As you mentioned in my introduction that I have been working in the United Kingdom because I have registration over there. I got that registration way back in 1984. At that time it was called limited registration, by which I got registration for 5 years. And whenever I used to go there and work, say for 2 months, then 2 months would be deducted from that 5 years registration. It was like a fixed deposit in the bank. So after working for 2 months, I was there with 4 months, 4 years and 10 months. Then again, after 6 months or a year, I used to go work for 3 months. 3 months used to be deducted. And I could keep on doing that until I completely finished off those 5 years. I must have finished about 50% of that. In between, for a few years, I could not go to England because I was trying to establish myself in India and become quite busy in my practice. But after 4 or 5 years, again, I thought that I must go there, break the monotony, learn something new. So very casually, I applied for a job. And to my surprise, I got a message from General Medical Council that your registration is cancelled. It was a big shock for me. And I said, why is it cancelled? They said that we have sent an email to all the doctors that your limited registration will be converted to permanent registration if you just write to us. I said, do you think that I'm a foolish person? If somebody is offering me permanent registration instead of limited registration, who will not want it? But I never got that mail. That's why I didn't send you the reply. So I'm telling you now, so please convert my limited registration into full registration. They said, no, we can't do that. You have to give lab again. Imagine after working in ophthalmology for about 2 decades, somebody asks you to give MBBS level examination. It's not easy, but basically it's not fair. Once you give an examination, you don't have to give that exam again. So I applied to them, they rejected my application. I appealed in the appeal tribunal, that also was rejected. So I was dejected, but I said it's okay, my registration is finished. That's all right, I will not do a job in UK anymore. But some professors in United Kingdom, namely Professor Dua, all of us know so well, he told me that don't give up like this. This is injustice to you, you must fight for it. Go to the court. We as doctors, we probably are very scared of the word called court because we will hear about cases against us. I said, no, I don't want to go to the court. He said, no, you must go to the court. You must fight for truth. So I told the GMC that I want to go to the court against you. GMC said that if you cannot afford or if you don't have facility, GMC will give you a lawyer to represent yourself. I thought that should I take it or not? And then I thought the way I would defend myself, nobody else will. Because I'll be full of passion when I talk for myself. So I said, no, thank you. I will represent myself. But I can't just go as a blind person and represent myself. So I took tuitions from lawyers in Pune. I learned how to defend myself. I learned how to present myself in front of the judges. I was taught that if there are more than one judges, some judge will be for you, somebody will be against you, but you can make out from their body language. Look at them and you will understand which judge is in your favor and which judge is against you. So I learned all that. I took tutorials and I went for the case. I went several times. I asked, how long is the case for? 11 to 11:30, 12 to 1, what is the timing for my case? They said your case is from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The case used to go for 8 hours. I entered the courtroom and in front of me were 2 barristers representing General Medical Council. Typical with that white wig which we see in movies, English old Hollywood movies, 2 barristers with white wig. That was quite intimidating for me. I had to face 2 barristers. But I said, it's okay. There were 3 judges. The chief judge was a senior lady. There was another lady judge and a very senior gentleman who was a 3rd judge. So I was asked, do you want an Asian judge? I said, no. If I feel that I'm correct, it doesn't matter. I don't believe in discrimination. I don't mind at all if all the 3 judges are British. So this is how I reacted. So from the beginning, I did not show any kind of weakness. I fought the case. I knew everything about medicine. I knew everything about regulations. The judge used to ask the barrister that, what is the meaning of this flag? These judges are not doctors. So the barrister would say, Your Honor, I will look into it and in the afternoon session I'll tell you what the flag is. And I used to raise my hand and said, I don't know if it is against the ethics, but Your Honor, can I tell you what is flag? Flag is professional linguistic assessment board examination. So I could score over the barristers in so many things because it was my profession. The arguments ended at 5 o'clock and the result was about to be declared when something very unprecedented happened. One of the lady judges, the junior, who actually was against me, I had learned to read who is with me and who is against. She was against me. She fell ill and she had to be rushed to the hospital. So the bailiff came and he told us that unfortunately this is something very unusual, but the judge had to be rushed to the hospital. So whatever has been done throughout the day is null and void. This case has cancelled as of today. It will be taken up again, maybe after 2 days or maybe after 2 months. I said, I have come all the way from India. What do I do? He said, I can't guide you because I can't commit it. I came back to India. On the day of Diwali, I got an email from the court that your case will be taken up day after tomorrow. Imagine Diwali days, all the festivities going on. I told my wife, Naina, I'm really tired. I don't want to go. I had some guests at home for dinner. They said, no, you have fought it so much, don't leave it now. You must go. So I took the night flight and I went again to England. They told me that the judges could be completely different, you'd have to start from scratch all over again. But to my fortune, they were the same 3 judges. So the background was already there. But the presentations and everything started from the word scratch. Every day before I went to the court, I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do some homework. How am I going to represent myself? So when I started my arguments, I was given the first chance before the barrister had changed incidentally. It was a new barrister. So I got up and I said, looking to that younger judge, I said, Your Honor, I may win this case or I may lose this case. I've come all the way from India to defend myself. But whether I win or not, it doesn't matter. It is very important for me to remember that firstly, I am a doctor. And Your Honor, about a month back when this case was going on, I came to know that you were not well and you had to be rushed to a hospital. So it's my duty to ask you as a doctor, Your Honor, are you well now? How are you feeling? She looked at me, she gave me a smile, and I knew that I had won her over. So, because I gave more preference to being a doctor than defending that case, I could immediately make out that now everything that I say she's going to take in the right spirit. The case again went on for the whole day. The judgment was about to be pronounced. The judges asked the GMC for a compromise. Will you give Dr. Dixit permanent registration? He will promise you that he will never do private practice in India. The GMC said, no, we don't want to give him a permanent registration, even for hospital work. The judges were quite furious. They said that with immediate effect, because of evidence provided by Dr. Dixit of what work he is doing in India, by providing us with the case papers of outpatient and theatre work, it is proved beyond doubt that the work that he does in India is equivalent to, or in some situations superior to the medicine in United Kingdom. So the court hereby directs General Medical Council to immediately reinstate full registration of Dr. Dixit, and any form of appeal for GMC is not allowed. This was not my victory. The way the judgment was given, I have all those 7 papers judgment. This speaks volumes of Indian medicine. That if you do very good work, even in United Kingdom in this era, it was judged as equivalent or in some situations better than UK medicine. This is a victory of Indian medicine. This is a victory of the kind of education that we have of Medical Council of India. So from this, I want all the doctors to know that if you know that you are fighting for something which you feel is absolutely correct, some kind of injustice is being done to you, some kind of unfairness is there, you must fight, which I learned because actually I was hesitant, but thanks to some seniors, I continued to fight. So if you have that conviction that what you have done is right, you must not give up and fight. But when you fight or when you pursue something, don't go unprepared. If I didn't know how to defend myself, those barristers would have eaten me alive. They were such experts, but I had gone fully prepared. I had learned a lot how to defend myself. So when you go into a new venture or want to do something, and if you have a conviction that what you are doing is right, do that, but be very well trained for that. And if you go with that training and with that passion, you will win. That's the interesting story of my life.
Great lesson, sir. Since you showed courage, your patience and your hard work. Everything great, and everybody should learn from this story. So, two quick questions. Which leadership skill you feel is most important?
I feel as a leader, everybody must say that everybody should follow me. I have learned something and I've become a leader, so everybody should try to emulate me and follow the path that I'm showing you. But I feel that the biggest responsibility or the skill of a leader is to create other leaders. You are not immortal. Or you may be a leader in one particular fraternity, but you may cross over and go to something else, and you may keep a void. So a leader must encourage people and give them good lessons, make them better. But I think the biggest duty that a leader has to perform is to create other leaders. So even when you move from one place to the other, or when you are not there anymore, your biggest duty has been performed is to create other leaders. That I think is the biggest duty of a leader.
Yes. And what is your formula to deal with disappointment and failure?
Disappointments and failures, everybody has to face them. I can be philosophical and say that well, it's a part of life, you must take it in your stride. But when it happens to you, you are very much dejected. When you are disappointed, when you fail, it's all right philosophically, take it in your stride, you are dejected. But now when I look back, I have also undergone disappointments and failures. But when I look back, if I continue to work whatever I was doing, honestly, sincerely, without getting angry and start doing something very foolish, if you continue to do good work, many of these failures are converted into at least total or partial success. So whenever failure comes to me now, I take a small glance at my past and see that I just crossed over those disappointments and failures, continue to do my good work, and they got converted into success from failures, as I said, maybe fully or maybe partially. So now I just take a glance at the past, but keep concentrating at the future. Well, I failed it. Let me continue what I'm doing. And from past experience, I know that success will definitely follow the failure.
So one last question. You are a successful clinician and you are working for a social cause, selfless service. You love teaching. You enjoyed playing tennis also, and you acted in films. So I would like to ask you a question: whether your multifaceted personality helped to have an enriched and happy life?
It certainly does. One of my gurus had told me, I will name it because I must give whatever I am today. I always am humble enough to say that everything that I am today is thanks to all the teachers who have taught me. Late Dr. H.V. Sardesai, who was my guru, he taught me that then you must sit down quietly and think and notice every small asset that you have. You have some big assets, some very tiny assets. Think about all of them and utilize all those assets in your career. At the same time, you must also understand what are your limitations, probably more important than knowing your assets. And whatever are your limitations and you really cannot conquer them, don't indulge into those fields. But definitely note what your assets are. So for example, teaching comes with reading. If you keep on reading, you enrich your knowledge, you become a teacher. So I said, as much as you read, if you keep on reading, you can always say good teacher. So I feel that if you stay as a student throughout your life, you will always stay as a teacher throughout your life. Even today, I am a student, so I have taught, and I'll try to keep on teaching because I will never give up being a student. I love reading. As far as tennis is concerned, I was very enthusiastic about it. I used to play with Nandan Bar, my close friend who ultimately became captain of the Tennis Cup of India. But there was a fork in front of me, whether I'll choose tennis or I'll go into medicine. And I, of course, chose to take medicine. Nandan chose to take tennis. He became extremely successful. I don't have that kind of athleticism now, but that taught me about exercise. And to this day, from those teenage days, always given importance to my health and exercise, and that helps me to stay healthy. As far as acting is concerned, again, I was at a folk when my movie was released. It got national award, many state awards, Filmfare Award for the best regional film. It's a very glamorous world. You can be very easily attracted to it. But in that folk, again, I chose medicine because I thought it's my duty and it's a longer career. I never repent that I took that decision. But whatever assets I had when I was acting in theater before and then in that movie, I don't have even a little bit of stage fright. I know how to talk to people. So from the first year of my private practice, I started talking on the dais and giving lectures in conferences. It's a norm today, but in late 80s, it was not a norm. It was very difficult to talk in conferences, and certainly for a very junior person like me. But I had no stage fright. I used to read, study, go on the dais and start talking. That way, I made my name in the medical fraternity. I made use of this ability to speak and to communicate with people in talking to general public. I kept on talking on radio, on television, many meetings, and I would give lectures in Marathi, Hindi, and English, of course, but try to reach out to people to give information to them, to remove the myths from their minds. So I use those skills which I developed in acting in my medical profession to talk in conferences and to reach out to people and talk to them. So if you make use of all these small assets, sometimes you may not even realize some small assets which you have, but you must think quietly and understand all those assets. And if you use all those assets, you become a good doctor and you can become an excellent and useful person in the society.
All these skills helped you to become a better person and better professional.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. This interview and your words of wisdom will definitely help everyone to become a better person and better professional also. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yashaswini, you're really taking things out of from him. The best of what even I didn't know. We have been associated with him. He's just a year senior to me. And see the amount of knowledge, multi-talented personality. I think though we are late by almost 25 minutes, but a lot of new things everybody has learned. Now the another station which is coming up at 1 o'clock is still more important because we are having all the national faculties in that. Again, we'll have a panel discussion with that. So तुम्हारा खाने का टाइम तो हमने खा लिया, पर आप कम खाओ और 1 बजे आ जाइए. Thank you very much.
Hopefully,